Chapter 770. Joie Bouffon read the whole examination materials from beginning to end. The more he read, the more serious his expression became. After he finished reading, Shin Taijun stepped forward and asked, "Dr. Joie, is there any hope for my father's illness?" Joie Bouffon put down the materials in his hand and said, "The patient's condition is very serious. If it's just an ordinary nerve fracture, it can be treated by surgery, but the location of the patient's nerve fracture is in the cerebral cortex. The brain is one of the most complicated organs in the human body. Once other organs are touched during the operation, it is very likely to cause brain death or lifelong paralysis of the patient, so it is impossible to complete the operation in this case." Xiao Weiman frowned. He had invited Joie Bouffon here with great hope. "Dr. Joie, how do you think we should treat this situation?" Joie Bouffon said, "In view of the patient's overall condition, the best treatment plan is conservative treatment." Qin Haodong couldn't help saying, "What do you mean by conservative treatment? Do you want the patient to sleep like this?" Joie Bouffon glanced at him and said, "For now, that's the only way." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Is this the plan given by an expert like you? What's the difference between having you or not?" "Of course it's different." Joie Bouffon said proudly, "I'm an expert in neurology. Recently, I've developed a new medicine that can extend the patient's life by at least 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years of life extension?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Do you mean to let the patient continue to lie in bed like this for another 3 to 5 years?" Joie Bouffon said, "I can responsibly say that this is the best treatment plan in the world. Life is precious. Although he's in a vegetative state, it's better than death." "You're wrong. This is the best treatment plan of your Western medicine. It doesn't represent our traditional Chinese medicine." Joie Bouffon said with a cold face, "What do you mean? Don't tell me you have a better treatment plan." Qin Haodong said calmly, "If it weren't for your trouble just now, the old man would have stood up by now." "What a joke! What a joke!" Joie Bouffon's face was full of disdain. "I've long heard that traditional Chinese medicine is a trick to deceive people. I've seen it today. I'm afraid that even God can't do anything to a person who has been in a vegetative state for 5 years. You can wake him up. If this isn't a lie, then what is?" Seeing that the two of them were arguing again, Xiao Weiman hurried forward and said, "Dr. Joie, Dr. Qin's medical skills are very good. He is known as the medical sage in Huaxia." At this time, he was very regretful. If he had known that Qin Haodong was here, he would not have brought Joie Bouffon here. Both of them were very good doctors, but the conflict between Chinese and Western concepts was too strong. Joie Bouffon sneered and said, "Medical sage? Our Western medicine is so developed, but no one dares to call himself a medical sage. This kind of sensationalism can only be done by traditional Chinese medicine practitioners to deceive the ignorant people." Qin Haodong didn't want to argue with such a person. He turned to look at Shin Taijun and said, "Uncle Shen, if you believe in traditional Chinese medicine, I'll treat the old man. If you don't, I'll leave now." Mu Bison shouted, "Of course I believe you. My old man's life was saved by little Qin. I believe he can also save the old squad leader." Joie Bouffon said, "I don't agree with the random treatment of traditional Chinese medicine. It can only aggravate the patient's condition. It may directly lead to death. At present, the best solution is conservative treatment." Qin Haodong pointed at him and said, "Your so-called conservative treatment is to let the old general, who once dominated the battlefield, lie in bed forever. This is not a treatment for him at all, but a kind of torture. Your so-called treatment can only prolong this torture for another 3 to 5 years. What's the point?" After that, without waiting for Joie Bouffon to refute, he turned to look at Shin Taijun. After all, he was the patient's family member, and the final decision was in his hands. Joie Bouffon said, "Mr. Shen, I hope you can consider it carefully. This kind of irresponsible treatment will only aggravate the patient's condition." Faced with this dilemma, Shin Taijun hesitated for a long time. Finally, he raised his head and said, "I know my father's character. It's not his choice to live without purpose. Lying in bed like this is really a kind of torture for him. I accept Dr. Qin's treatment. After that, he turned around and gave Qin Haodong a standard military salute. Dr. Qin, please take care of my father. Nonsense. It's nonsense. Zhuo Bufan turned around in annoyance and said to Xiao Weiman, Minister Xiao, I think you should stand up and stop this farce. Xiao Weiman was also quite dissatisfied with Zhuo Bufan's arrogance and stubbornness. He said, Dr. Zhuo, this is not a farce. Chinese medicine can also cure diseases. Well, although Zhuo Bufan was arrogant, he did not dare to offend Xiao Weiman's authority. After thinking for a moment, he turned to Qin Haodong and said, Since you've decided to treat him, how about we make a bet? Qin Haodong said, Okay, what do you want to bet? If you fail this time, you have to publicly apologize to all the people of Huaxia, cancel your title of medical sage, and admit that Chinese medicine is a trick. Qin Haodong looked at Zhuo Bufan with burning eyes and said coldly, Dr. Zhuo, I think there's one thing you need to understand. Chinese medicine has been passed down for thousands of years. It's the treasure of our Huaxia nation. It's not a trick. Even your ancestors survived with Chinese medicine. It can be said that without Chinese medicine, there would be no me, and there would be no you. Even if I can't cure old Master Shen's illness, it can only be said that I don't have a good understanding of Chinese medicine. It has nothing to do with the medical skills of Chinese medicine. Zhuo Bufan sneered and said, This is all an excuse. It means that you don't dare to bet. Qin Haodong said, Of course I will bet. Qin Haodong said, But the bet has to be changed. If I lose, I will publicly apologize to all of Huaxia and cancel my title of medical sage. At the same time, I will say goodbye to the profession of doctor and never be a doctor again. Zhuo Bufan said, That's fine. If I lose, I will also publicly apologize to Chinese medicine and say goodbye to the profession of doctor. No need. I'm not as narrow-minded as you. Qin Haodong looked at Zhuo Bufan and said, I think your suit is good. Let's use it as a bet. If you lose, take off this suit and give it to me now. Zhuo Bufan's expression changed. It seemed that the bet was very small, but if his clothes were taken off in public, how could he, a returned doctor, an internal medicine expert and the deputy director of the central hospital, face others in the future? Seeing his hesitation, Qin Haodong asked, What's wrong, Dr. Zhuo? Are you afraid? Why wouldn't I dare? It's a deal then. As a medical expert who had studied in M country, he had seen almost all the medical cases in the world. He had never heard of anyone who could wake up a vegetative person in a short time. It was impossible. Therefore, in his opinion, this was a bet that he would definitely win. He dared to bet his life, not to mention his suit. After that, he turned to Xiao Weiman and said, Minister Xiao, please be a witness for us, in case someone goes back on his word later. Xiao Weiman looked embarrassed. One of them was the best Chinese medicine practitioner in Huaxia, and the other was a leading figure of Western medicine. They could be said to be his right-hand men. But now that things had come to this, he had no room to retreat. He could only say, Well, I'll be a witness for you too. After the bet was settled, Qin Haodong took out the silver needles again and walked to the bedside. He was 100% confident in the treatment this time. Although he did not understand the structure of the human brain and the composition of neurons, these things were meaningless to him. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, he only needed to know where the meridians were and solve the problem. Under the observation of the spirit, he locked the position of Shenangua's broken nerves, and then began to use the rejuvenative acupuncture to connect the broken nerves. Soon, more than a dozen silver needles were pierced into the major acupoints on Shenangua's head. The green with genuine qi continued to flow into his body through the silver needles, nourishing the injured meridians with the rejuvenative acupuncture. About 10 minutes later, he took back the silver needles. At this time, all the injured meridians had been connected, and the meridians in the head had returned to normal. After putting away the silver needles, he massaged his chest and dantian a few times. Shenanggua had been bedridden for 5 years. Although his organs were intact, his meridians and qi and blood had fallen into a half-asleep state. They were fully activated after being nourished by the greenwood genuine qi. The people around looked at him nervously. Only Zhuo Bufan looked at the ceiling with disdain, waiting for Qin Haodong to make a fool of himself. Seeing that Qin Haodong had put away the silver needles, Shen Taijun hurriedly asked, "Dr. Qin, how is my father?" "He's fine. He's completely recovered." After Qin Haodong said that, he turned to Zhuo Bufan and said, "Dr. Zhuo, this set of clothes is already mine. Take it off quickly." What a joke. Zhuo Bufan glanced at Shen Anghua, who was still lying in bed. "Is this your so-called cure? I think you'd better hurry up and do another examination for the patient. Don't make him brain dead." "Don't worry, that's good." Shen Anghua had been asleep for a long time, and Qin Haodong was giving him a buffer time. Seeing that it was about time, he reached out and patted Shen Anghua's dantian. With a snap, Shen Anghua, who was on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes and then sat up. His body did not feel stiff at all. Seeing that the old man suddenly sat up, the others were shocked and took 2 steps back. Shen Taijun was overjoyed and immediately rushed up to support the old man. He said with tears streaming down his face, "Dad, you finally woke up. This. How is this possible?" Zhuo Bufan was so surprised that his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. More than 10 minutes ago, he had been lying in a vegetative state on the bed, but now he suddenly sat up. This was really shocking. Although Shen Anghua had been lying in bed, his brain was not damaged at all, as Qin Haodong had said, so he knew what was happening around him clearly. He turned around, landed on his feet, and stood up from the bed. He reached out to grab Qin Haodong's arm and said excitedly, "Little magic doctor, thank you so much. Without you, the rest of my life would be completely wasted." After that, he turned his head and glared at Zhuo Bufan. "You quack, do you know how much I've suffered over the years? This kind of life where I can't move is more painful than death. You actually want me to live for another 3 to 5 years. Aren't you cheating me?" He had just heard Zhuo Bufan's treatment plan, but unfortunately, he couldn't move at that time. Otherwise, he would have jumped up and fought with this guy. At this point, Zhuo Bufan couldn't believe everything in front of him. If he hadn't just read the examination information, he would have really thought that the old man and Qin Haodong were performing together. How could a vegetative person wake up so easily? Qin Haodong looked at him and said, "Dr. Zhuo, if you have nothing to say, can you take off my clothes now?" Chapter 771. Well, although he had made a bet, Zhuo Bufan was not prepared to take off his clothes at all. He could not do such a thing in front of so many people and then run back naked. He could only look at Xiao Weiman for help. Xiao Weiman sighed. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have done it in the first place. Zhuo Bufan was indeed too arrogant. But no matter what, he was the one who brought him here. It would not look good if he really brought him back naked. He said to Qin Haodong, "Little Qin, Dr. Zhuo already knows his mistake. Let's forget about it." Zhuo Bufan quickly said, "Yes, Dr. Qin, I was wrong before. When I go back, I will publicly apologize to traditional Chinese medicine. Let's forget about taking off my clothes, okay?" Qin Haodong said, "No, you have to admit your defeat. But since Minister Xiao interceded, I will save you some face. I don't want your pants, but you still have to take off your shirt." This guy had just slandered traditional Chinese medicine with great momentum. This kind of person had to be taught a lesson, or he would not learn his lesson in the future. Zhuo Bufan looked at Xiao Weiman again, but this time, Xiao Weiman did not even look at him. He turned his head and looked out of the window. Xiao Weiman knew very well that Qin Haodong had already given him face by leaving him a pair of pants. He could not go too far. Moreover, Zhuo Bufan had indeed gone too far just now, so he deserved a lesson. In desperation, Zhuo Bufan could only take off his shirt and glare at Qin Haodong fiercely. Now that things had come to this, he no longer had the face to stay there. He walked out of the sanatorium without looking back. His assistant was waiting outside in the car. He was shocked when he saw him running out naked. It was already autumn. Why was the vice director so hot? Joao Buffon got in the car and shouted to his assistant, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and drive." In the yard, Shin Taijun took out a bank card and stuffed it into Qin Haodong's hand. "Dr. Qin, there's 500,000 yuan here. Thank you for saving our old master." They were a military and political family and had a great influence in the political circle, but they were not very rich financially. 500,000 yuan was all his savings. Qin Haodong shook his head and pushed the card back to him. "Our stable environment today is all thanks to the old master's hard work. I don't need to charge him for treating the old master." This, seeing that Qin Haodong insisted, Shin Taijun looked at Mu Bison awkwardly. Mu Bison said, "It doesn't matter if little Qin doesn't want it. He didn't have money to treat the old man. Anyway, he is Mingrue's boyfriend. We will be a family in the future." Shin Taijun could only keep his card after hearing Elder Mu's words. Old Master Shin said, "Young man, you're really good. Old Mu has already said that we will be a family in the future. As long as we two old things don't die, our words still have some weight in Huaxia. If you need anything in the future, just say it. We two old men will help you." After being nourished by the greenwood genuine qi, he did not look like a patient who had just recovered from a serious illness. On the contrary, he was in good spirits. He looked back at Hua Mingrue and said, "Time flies so fast. When I was injured, I was still a little girl. Now I have grown up. When are you going to get married? This old man must have a good drink." Hua Mingrue blushed. "Grandpa Shen, you're joking with me again. What's there to be embarrassed about? Besides, you and little Dr. Qin are really a good match." "I think you're a good match." Shin Ongwa turned to Shin Taijun and said, "Boy, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and arrange the food and wine. Old Mu and I are going to have a good drink with little Dr. Qin." Shin Taijun said, "Dad, you've just recovered from a serious illness. It's not good to drink. What if you have a relapse?" Qin Haodong said, "It doesn't matter. The old man has been completely cured now. It's okay to drink a little." The meridians he had reconnected with the greenwood genuine qi were even tougher than before. There was no possibility of a relapse. After a few drinks with the two old men, he returned to the Tang sect. The next day, he accompanied Su Hui to the clinic of traditional Chinese medicine. At 9:00 in the morning, he had just seen a patient when the cell phone in his pocket rang. It was Xiao Weiman. The two of them had just met yesterday, and now they were calling again. There must be something going on. He walked into the massage room with his cell phone. As soon as he pressed the answer button, he heard Xiao Weiman saying in a hurry, "Little Qin, where are you now?" Qin Haodong said, "I'm at the Huidong Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Wait for me there. I have something urgent to talk to you about." Xiao Weiman hung up the phone in a hurry. Qin Haodong put away his cell phone, but he was confused. What on earth could make a minister so anxious? 6 or 7 minutes later, Xiao Weiman hurried in from outside. Qin Haodong let him into the massage room and closed the door. "Minister Xiao, what's the matter?" "Little Qin, something big happened." Xiao Weiman took a breath and said, "I just received a report from the Department of Sanity of Yundian Province. There are a few very special cases there." Qin Haodong said, "It's normal for people to get sick, and it's normal for some difficult and complicated diseases. It's not a big deal, is it? It's not that simple." Xiao Weiman said with a heavy face. In the border between Yundian Province and Myanmar, there was a small village called Oxhorn Village. There were not many people in the village, about 200 or 300 families. Behind the village was a big mountain called Savage Mountain. Many villagers in the village made a living by hunting. Just 4 days ago, a villager named Nyo Erwa suddenly fell ill after coming back from hunting in the mountains. He had a high fever and his whole body was convulsing. His family sent him to the county hospital. The hospital diagnosed it as a common cold and fever. After 2 injections, he was allowed to go back to the village to recuperate. After Nyo Erwa returned home, the high fever really subsided, but he was still in a coma. 3 days later, he suddenly woke up, but he seemed to have changed into a different person. His hands and feet were stiff when he walked, just like a zombie in a movie. He had lost his mind and did not know anyone. He was extremely bloodthirsty and bit anyone he saw. Several villagers were bitten by him in succession. More than a dozen young and strong men gathered in the village to subdue him, but this guy was very strong after he went crazy. He bit a few more villagers in succession before he was tied up. But as soon as he was subdued, the injured villagers began to have fever and convulsions again, which was exactly the same as his previous symptoms. Chin Haodong's expression changed. This means that his disease is contagious. It looks like Resident Evil in the movie. Xiao Weiman said with a heavy expression, "It's true." The locals also thought of this and reported the matter to the county government. The county government did not dare to delay and immediately reported it to the higher-ups. Finally, it was reported to the Yunnan provincial government. The Yunnan provincial government asked the Department of Sanity to organize an expert group to come to Oxhorn village and conduct a blood test on the injured villagers and Lu Erwa. In the end, they found that there was an extremely rare virus in their blood. It can be confirmed that Nyo Erwa and the other villagers' diseases were caused by this virus. Chin Haodong asked, "Is there any effective medicine for this virus?" Xiao Weiman shook his head. If there is, the Department of Sanity of Yunnan Province would not have reported it. This kind of virus is a newly discovered type. It has never been seen before. There is no preventive vaccine or effective treatment. The only good thing is that this virus is transmitted through blood, so there is not much pressure to prevent it. Chin Haodong frowned and said, "Minister Xiao, it doesn't seem to be as simple as you think. You forgot how Nyo Erwa got infected with this virus. If we don't find the root cause, we can't completely prevent it. Other people may also be infected." Xiao Weiman slapped his thigh and said, "I really forgot about this. Now all the prevention and control work is focused on Nyo Erwa and the infected villagers. I forgot that there is a hidden source of infection." Chin Haodong asked, "How is Nyo Erwa now? Has he returned to normal? Can you tell me how he was infected with this virus?" Xiao Weiman said, "Not yet. Nyo Erwa has always been in that kind of zombie state and has no consciousness at all. I'll call them later and ask them to do a detailed medical examination for Nyo Erwa again. We must find the source of the virus." Chin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, do you need me to do anything for you?" Xiao Weiman said, "The experts of the Ministry of Health have consulted the World Medical Association about this virus. It is indeed a newly discovered virus and there is no way to prevent or treat it. This virus is really terrible. If it is not controlled well, it will really become a biochemical crisis. Therefore, the Ministry of Health decided to form an expert group to Yunnan Province and eliminate this crisis from the source. The members of the expert group include experts from the Institute of Traditional Chinese Medicine, Western Medicine, Biochemistry Research Institute, and researchers from the Biological Research Center. I hope that everyone can work together to eliminate this new virus." Chin Haodong nodded. The Ministry of Health's emergency response was undoubtedly correct and appropriate. Xiao Weiman said, "Little Chin, I chose you and Mr. Sun Fengqing from the Medicine King Clinic. Zhuo Bufan will lead the team of Western medicine and he will be the leader of the expert group this time. I know that Zhuo Bufan is arrogant and he didn't have a good time with you yesterday, but I hope that you can focus on the overall situation and complete this task well." Chin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, don't worry. I know what's important." Xiao Weiman nodded with satisfaction and said, "That's good. I originally wanted you to lead the team this time, but considering that Western medicine is better at viruses, I let Zhuo Bufan lead the team." Chin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, it doesn't matter who leads the team, as long as we can eliminate this crisis." As a doctor, He had just felt the seriousness of the virus this time. If it was not controlled well and the virus was allowed to spread, it would endanger the entire human world. Xiao Weiman said, "The expert group will set off tonight. You should get ready. In principle, you can bring an assistant." Qin Haodong said in surprise, "Minister Xiao, the situation over there is already very critical. Why don't you set off immediately? Why do we have to wait until night?" Xiao Weiman sighed and said, "I'm also anxious, but this time the expert group will bring a lot of medical equipment with them. We need a special plane. The Ministry of Health doesn't have a plane, so we have to communicate with the aviation department. They said that there will only be a free plane at night." Qin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, I happen to have a private plane. I can use it for emergencies." "Really? That's great. Little Qin, you've helped me a lot." Xiao Weiman was overjoyed. "I'll inform the members of the expert group immediately and ask them to gather at the airport. When everyone is here, we'll take off immediately." Qin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, you're welcome. It's my duty to do something for the country. I'll ask someone to send the information of the plane to your mobile phone right away. I'll also rush to the airport now." Chapter 772. Xiao Weiman said happily, "Well, get ready first. I'll go back and inform them now." After that, he got into his Audi A6 and hurried back to the Ministry of Health. After Xiao Weiman left, Su Hui came over and asked, "Haodong, what's wrong? Is something wrong?" Qin Haodong briefly told him about the incident in Oxhorn village and then said, "I'm now a member of the expert panel, and I'm going to Yunnan province soon." After hearing his words, Su Hui immediately reached out and grabbed his arm. "Haodong, I'll go with you." "You don't have to. It's very dangerous there." Su Hui had entered the Tang sect, but Qin Haodong hadn't had time to help her improve her cultivation with the dual cultivation enlightenment method. At present, she was still a weak ordinary person. "I don't care. I want to be with you." Su Hui, who used to be indifferent, acted coquettishly today. "Aren't you afraid of being bitten by zombies?" "I'm not afraid. You're here anyway." "All right, I'll take you with me, but you have to promise to listen to me when we get there. Don't leave my side for no reason." Qin Haodong finally agreed. He felt that it was no problem for him to take care of Su Hui with his cultivation. Besides, it was also a very rare experience for a doctor. "Don't worry, I won't leave you." After saying that, Su Hui hung a closed sign at the door, and then began to pack up happily. According to Qin Haodong's original plan, he would leave immediately after informing his family, but it became much more troublesome after Su Hui joined in. Girls always brought a lot of things when they went out. 20 minutes later, Qin Haodong put all the things Su Hui had prepared into the storage ring, and then they drove to the airport. The Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine was on the west side of the capital, and the airport was on the east side of the capital. They almost crossed the entire urban area of the capital. Even though Qin Haodong's driving skills were superb, it took him more than half an hour to cross the city. Seeing that he was only a dozen kilometers away from the airport, he breathed a sigh of relief. But at this moment, an off-road vehicle next to him suddenly changed lanes and collided with his Range Rover. The collision was so sudden that both cars stopped in the middle of the road. Qin Haodong was so angry that he slammed the steering wheel. The more anxious he was, the more accidents would happen. He was in a hurry to get to the airport, but there was a traffic accident. He got out of the car and saw a tall middle-aged man with blood all over his head jump out of the car in front of him. He pointed at Qin Haodong and cursed, "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you know how to drive?" Although there was still some distance between the two of them, the strong smell of alcohol assaulted them. Just how much did this guy drink? Qin Haodong was in a hurry to go to Yunnan province, so he had no time to deal with this drunkard. He pulled Su Hui up and ran to the airport. His car was seriously damaged and could no longer be driven. Originally, he wanted to take a taxi, but this place was close to the airport and far away from the city, so it was impossible to take a taxi. Su Hui was an ordinary girl without any cultivation. After running a few hundred meters, she was already out of breath. It was broad daylight now, and it was not convenient for him to fly on his sword under the watchful eyes of the public. He could only squat down helplessly and said to Su Hui, "Come on, I'll carry you on my back." Su Hui said, "How can we do that? There's still more than 10 kilometers to go. I'd better persevere on my own. You're walking too slowly. Hurry up. We're in a hurry." Qin Haodong did not say anything. He carried Su Hui on his back and ran in the direction of the airport. It was no problem for him to carry a person on his back, but it was a pity that he did not dare to show off too much, so he could only move a little faster than ordinary people. On a runway of the capital airport, a luxurious private plane was parked there, ready to take off. There were already 7 or 8 people in the cabin. They were all members of the expert team going to Yundian province this time, led by Zhuo Bufan, the deputy director of the capital central hospital. He held a list in his hand, glanced at the members in the cabin, and said, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Zhuo Bufan, the leader of this expert team. Now I'll take a roll call and see if all the departments are here." Yi Liang and Dong Anna from the Institute of Biochemistry. "Yes, leader." The one who spoke was a woman in her 30s. She was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and looked extremely elegant. She was Yi Liang, a researcher from the Institute of Biochemistry. Next to Yi Liang sat a coquettish woman in her 20s. Her name was Dong Anna, and she was Yi Liang's assistant. In such a large-scale event, the assistants were usually arranged by the higher-ups. They were all people with powerful backgrounds. Dong Anna was one of them. Zhuo Bufan nodded and said again, "Are Wang Aimin and Guo Tao from the Biological Research Center here?" "Leader, we're here." The one who spoke was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was Wang Aimin, a researcher from the Biological Research Center. Next to him sat a young man in his 20s. He was Guo Tao, his assistant. Compared with Wang Aimin's calmness, Guo Tao seemed to be much more frivolous. His eyes drifted over Dong Anna's snow-white thighs from time to time. Zhuo Bufan continued, "Zhao Meng, chief physician of the capital central hospital." "Yes." The voice was extremely loud. The person who answered was a young man in his 30s sitting next to Zhuo Bufan. He was the assistant brought by Zhuo Bufan this time. After counting all these people, Zhuo Bufan finally frowned and said, "Sun Fengqing and Sun Bowi, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners." Although he had seen Qin Haodong's amazing medical skills yesterday, it did not reduce his rejection of traditional Chinese medicine at all. "I'm here." The person who spoke was an old man in his 70s. He was Sun Fengqing, the head of the Medicine King Clinic. Although he was a little old, he looked young and energetic. Sitting next to him was a young man. It was his grandson, Sun Bowi. "Qin Haodong, Su Hui, are you here?" Although Zhuo Bufan had seen Qin Haodong's name a long time ago, he still called him last. He was full of resentment for the young man who had stripped him naked yesterday. After he called the names, the cabin was silent and no one answered. Zhuo Bufan called again, but there was still no response. Zhao Meng stood up and counted the people in the cabin. Then he said, "Leader, we've called all the people here, but those 2 haven't arrived yet." Zhuo Bufan's face immediately darkened. "It's outrageous. How could they be late for such an important action? Do they have any discipline?" Zhao Meng had also used his connections to enter the expert group. Although this guy didn't have much real ability, his flattery skills were top-notch. Although he had never seen Qin Haodong or even heard of his name, he could see Zhuo Bufan's disgust for this person. He immediately said, "That's right. This kind of person is too outrageous. Even the leader, such a busy big shot, has arrived. What right do they have to be late?" Yi Liang said, "We're in a hurry this time. It's inevitable that we'll be a few minutes late. Let's wait a little longer." Zhuo Bufan snorted and did not say anything else. When all the people were here, they unconsciously began to chat. Because this was a private plane, although the space was spacious, there were not many seats. They were all leather seats, which were more comfortable than the sofa at home. Dong Anna patted the leather seat under her and sighed, "This plane is really luxurious. I really don't know which rich man's plane belongs to." Yi Liying was sitting next to her, but she obviously did not have a good impression of this gold-plated assistant. She turned her head out of the window and did not answer. Guo Tao, who was sitting opposite, immediately came over and said, "I think so too. The person who can own this kind of plane must be a super rich man in the capital. It's only because Minister Xiao has a lot of face that he can borrow this kind of private plane for our mission." The others were also constantly looking at the luxurious decoration of this private plane. There were televisions, refrigerators, and all kinds of household facilities. There was even a small bar at the rear of the plane. The wine cabinet was filled with all kinds of high-end wine. Although they were all elites in the scientific research field and talents in the medical field, it was the first time they had taken such a luxurious private plane. In the whispering discussion, another 20 minutes passed unknowingly. Joie Bouffon's face became more and more ugly. It would be fine if someone else was late, but it was Qin Haodong who was late, which made him more and more angry. Feeling his emotions, Zhao Meng said, "Leader, I think we can't wait for this kind of person any longer. He is so undisciplined. It will be a bad thing if he goes there." Guo Tao also seemed to be impatient and said, "That's right. How can he be so late? Does he think other people's time is not his own time?" At this moment, Yi Liying, who had been looking out of the window, said, "Don't worry, everyone. It seems that they are coming." The people in the cabin looked out of the window and saw Qin Haodong running towards the plane with a beautiful woman on his back. Soon, he entered the boarding gate. Qin Haodong ran all the way with Su Hui on his back and finally got on the plane. He smiled at everyone and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, everyone. Something happened on the way and I'm late." "Is it enough to say sorry? Do you know what this operation is? How urgent is the situation? Do you have any discipline?" Joie Bouffon had been holding it in for a long time, and now he finally vented his anger. Qin Haodong frowned, but thinking of what Xiao Weiman had told him to focus on the overall situation, he said again, "I'm sorry, something really happened. I've kept you waiting." Zhao Meng shouted, "If you're sorry, why do you need the police? Do you know the importance of this mission? If we arrive in the disaster area 1 minute later, the epidemic there may be more serious. Can you bear the consequences?" Guo Tao saw that Qin Haodong was dressed in ordinary clothes and was not very old, so he naturally did not take him seriously. He said, "I hate people who are late the most. They don't take other people's time. Your behavior is squandering other people's lives." Dong Anna originally did not care about being late, but when she saw Su Hui, who was so beautiful that no one could find any flaws, a look of jealousy rose in her heart. She couldn't help but say, "I don't think there's anything special. Maybe the two of them are too in love." Seeing these people's endless sarcasm, Su Hui couldn't help getting angry. She said angrily, "In order to be in a hurry, our car crashed and is still on the road. Besides, Haodong has already apologized twice. What else do you want? Oh, you've made a mistake, but you're still so righteous." Dong Anna said, "Although we're a temporary expert group, we have to have our own rules. I don't think people like you who have no discipline should follow us." When Zhao Meng saw Su Hui, a look of amazement flashed in his eyes. However, considering Joie Bouffon, who was livid next to him, he said, "I agree. I think this kind of person who has no sense of time is not worthy of staying in our expert group. He should be fired." Chapter 773. Dong Anna also shouted, "That's right. Both of them should be expelled." Guo Tao also said, "Mr. Joie, hurry up and make a decision. I don't want to be associated with such people." Sun Bowie wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Sun Fengqing. Although the old man did not let his grandson speak, he did not help Qin Haodong either. There was a faint smile on his face from beginning to end, and he wanted to see how Qin Haodong would resolve the storm in front of him. Yi Liying kept looking at the two young people in front of her, and her eyes were full of curiosity. Wang Aimin, on the other hand, did not even look at them. He was just a researcher who was obsessed with scientific research, and he was not interested in these intrigues at all. Joie Bouffon sneered and looked at Qin Haodong and Su Hui. Did you hear that? It's everyone's wish to expel you. It's not my decision alone. Speaking of this, his face suddenly changed, and he put on a businesslike expression. Because Qin Haodong and Su Hui have seriously violated the rules in their first activity, I announce that they will be expelled from the expert group. After saying these words, he felt incomparably comfortable in his heart. He had finally avenged the day before when he was stripped naked. When he learned that Qin Haodong was in the expert group this time, he was extremely angry. He had been thinking about how to drive this guy out, but he did not expect that Qin Haodong would come to him as soon as he started. Qin Haodong glanced at Joie Bouffon and knew that this guy was obviously taking revenge in public. Although the time limit for this gathering was very tight, there was no clear time to report, so there was no such thing as being late. He was just the last to arrive. If it had been someone else who arrived last, he believed that Joie Bouffon would not have said a word. Then he looked at Zhao Meng and the others, who were gloating. These guys were obviously trying to flatter Joie Bouffon. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said, "Mr. Joie, are you sure you want to expel the two of us?" "Of course. Nothing can be accomplished without following the rules. You must be expelled for being so late. Mr. Joie, I hope you can think about it carefully, or you may regret it later." Joie Bouffon sneered and said, "People like you who don't follow the rules should be expelled. How can I regret it?" Zhao Meng also said, "Yes, you really think highly of yourself. Do you think we can't go to Yundian province without you?" "You're right. At least you can't go now." Qin Haodong was also completely angered by these guys. Although Xiao Weiman had told him to focus on the overall situation, it did not mean that he had no bottom line. He had to explode when it was time. He turned around and said, "Since they don't welcome me, let's go." After that, he took Su Hui to get off the plane. Everyone in the cabin thought that he was talking to Su Hui. Sun Fengqing shook his head secretly. Yesterday, Sun Bowie went back and told him that he had lost to Qin Haodong. He thought that this young man had some tricks, but now it seemed that he had thought too much. That was all. Joie Bouffon, Zhao Meng, Dong Anna, and the others were excited. They enjoyed the feeling of trampling someone to death. But soon, these people found that a pilot and 2 flight attendants in the cabin also followed Qin Haodong out of the airport. Joie Bouffon immediately felt that something was wrong. If even these people left, how could they go to Yundian province? He hurriedly shouted, "Where are you going? Don't go." The pilot glanced at him as if he were looking at a fool. He was a pilot selected by the members of Daddy's security company, so he naturally would not be kind to those who attacked his boss. "This is our boss's plane. Our boss has been driven out. Do I still need to serve you?" The beautiful flight attendant behind him followed and said, "By the way, you should also get off quickly. This flight is cancelled. We're going to close the cabin door." "What? The flight is cancelled? He's the boss of this plane?" Hearing this, the group's complacency immediately disappeared, replaced by a dumbfounded expression. None of them had expected that the owner of this private plane was Qin Haodong, and they had just driven him off the plane together. This was not a noisy guest taking over the host's place, but a dove occupying a magpie's nest. If the owner did not go, the plane would naturally not take off for them. This was something that could be easily figured out. Joie Bouffon was completely dumbfounded. He was very clear about the importance the Ministry of Health attached to this operation. Otherwise, they would not have urgently called for a private plane just to be in a hurry. It was fine if he did not take Qin Haodong to Yundian province, but if this operation could not be carried out, Xiao Weiman would definitely kill him. This time, he returned to Huaxia because he was completely moved by the generous conditions offered by the Ministry of Health. Country had already terminated the contract. If the contract here was also terminated, then he really had nowhere to go. Although with his medical level, he would not completely lose his job, it was impossible for him to find such a good treatment as the central hospital. At the same time, everyone else's eyes were focused on Zhuo Bufan's face. Yi Liying, Wang Aimin, and Sun Fengxing's eyes were full of blame. They felt that he was making a fuss about it. As for Zhao Meng, Dong Anna, Guo Tao, and the others, they did not have the support they had just now. This time, they were here to gain experience. If they really messed up this operation, they were afraid that Xiao Weiman would be angry and they would not have such a chance in the future. Feeling the overwhelming pressure, Zhuo Bufan finally gritted his teeth, stood up, and walked toward the airport entrance. Dr. Qin, don't go yet. In the end, he stopped Qin Haodong, who was about to leave. Qin Haodong turned around and looked at Zhuo Bufan with a sneer. Leader Zhuo, I've already been fired. Why don't you let me go? Don't tell me you want to arrest me. I'm just a little late. It's not that big a crime, is it? Zhuo Bufan said embarrassedly, Dr. Qin, in fact, everyone was joking with you just now. At this time, Dong Anna, Zhao Meng, and the others also came over. Zhao Meng said, Yes, Dr. Qin, it's the first time we've met. We made a little joke with you. Please don't take it to heart. Dong Anna had just seen Qin Haodong's ordinary clothes and thought that he was just a poor Chinese medicine practitioner. She did not expect that he was a rich man who owned such a luxurious plane. He was young, handsome, and so rich. He was simply the best among men. At this moment, when she looked at Qin Haodong again, her eyes were full of naked desire. She wished she could immediately pounce on him and roll in bed with him. As for Su Hui next to him, since he was rich, she did not care about having a few more women. Yes, handsome boy, you're so handsome. How can I be willing to drive you away? Dong Anna said in a coquettish voice. Her voice was so charming that it was like a different person from her previous sarcasm. Qin Haodong glanced at the three of them and said with a sneer, Are you kidding? Do you think your IQ is lower, or mine? He had just been acting cool, but in the blink of an eye, he had been slapped in the face. Zhuo Bufan's heart was full of anger, but he could not lose his temper. In order to keep the young man in front of him, he could only give up his face. Dr. Qin, I'm sorry. I was wrong just now. I shouldn't have made a fuss. Please, for the sake of this task, please forgive me. He was also a smart man. He knew that he could not fool Qin Haodong, so he immediately chose to lower his head and admit his mistake. Seeing that Zhuo Bufan had lowered his head and admitted his mistake, the others no longer cared about their dignity. They all followed suit and said, Dr. Qin, I'm sorry. We were wrong just now. Zhao Meng's eyes flickered as he spoke. For a person like him who was good at flattery, admitting his mistake was nothing at all. What he needed to figure out now was how to get more benefits later. In contrast, Dong Anna's apology was very sincere. Now she really felt that she had been wrong just now. She had almost missed such a young rich man. What she wanted to do now was to please Qin Haodong. It would be best if she could pull him into bed. Guo Tao lowered his head. His uncle was the deputy director of the Biological Research Institute. This time, he had used his family's connections to come here. This guy had always been arrogant. Now, although he was forced to lower his head and admit his mistake because of the situation, he was extremely unconvinced in his heart. He secretly made up his mind to get back the face he had lost when he got the chance. Although the three of them had different mentalities, they all lowered their heads and admitted their mistakes. Qin Haodong said, It's because this task is urgent that I took out my private plane to be in a hurry. Otherwise, we would have to wait until evening. Do you think I'm wasting time or saving time? Since he had already lowered his head, Zhuo Bufan did not continue to be stubborn. He quickly nodded and said, Dr. Qin is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. We were wrong. Thinking of the overall situation, Qin Haodong did not care about these people anymore. He waved his hand to the pilot and the flight attendant, and they returned to the plane together. Soon, the door of the plane was closed. After a short taxi, it flew in the direction of Yundian province. After sitting down again, everyone's attitude towards Qin Haodong had changed completely. Although Zhuo Bufan was the person in charge of this operation and was appointed as the leader of the expert group, he was now sitting on someone else's plane. He was the guest, and his family was the host, so the arrogance on his face was much less. Sun Fengqing still had a faint smile on his face, but there was a trace of appreciation in his eyes when he looked at Qin Haodong. No one knew whether it was because Qin Haodong could take out the plane for disaster relief or because of something else. Yi Liying was even more curious. While Dong Anna kept flirting with them, and from time to time, she would flirt with them. Guo Tao had been flirting with Dong Anna since he got on the plane. Now this woman did not even look at him. She kept flirting with that toy boy, which made him even more resentful towards Qin Haodong. In contrast, Zhuo Bufan's reaction was extremely calm, as if nothing had happened just now. He took out a tablet and said to everyone present, "Just now, Minister Zhao sent me a new piece of information. The Department of Sanity of Yundian Province has already carried out a medical examination on Niu Erwa to find the source of infection. They found that there were 2 small red spots on his neck. It is speculated that he had been bitten by some creature before, so he was infected with this special virus. According to the current situation, it is very likely that a bat bit him." After that, he handed the tablet in his hand to Wang Imin. "Professor Wang, you are an expert in animal research. There are photos on it. Take a look and see if it was bitten by a bat." Wang Imin took the laptop, took Wang Erwa's photo, and kept zooming in on it. He observed it carefully. Guo Tao, who was next to him, also looked at it. Although he was here to gain experience, he was also a college student who graduated from the Department of Biology, so he still knew some basic knowledge. After carefully observing for a few minutes, Wang Imin said, "Because it has been a long time, the wound has already scabbed, so I can't be 100% sure. But judging from the bite marks, it is very likely that it was a bat." In order to show his professional ability, Guo Tao also said, "I agree with Professor Wang. It must have been a bat that bit Niu Erwa." Then he said to Zhuo Bufan, "Leader, I have a question that I don't understand." Chapter 774. Zhuo Bufan glanced at him meaningfully and said, "From now on, we're a team. If there's anything you don't understand, just tell me." Guo Tao said, "The situation is really urgent this time. I heard that 7 or 8 villagers have been infected with the virus. If we can't control it effectively, the consequences will be extremely serious. From the current point of view, Western medicine can cure the disease, and the Institute of Biochemistry can study and analyze this rare virus. Our Biological Research Center can give you relevant information about bats so that we can find the source of the virus. But I don't understand why we have to bring so many doctors of traditional Chinese medicine with us. What's the use of them? Can it be that those grass roots and rotten leaves can eliminate the virus? I don't believe it." "Hey, what are you talking about? What do you mean that Western medicine can cure the disease? Can't we Chinese medicine?" This guy had been talking for a long time, and it turned out that he just wanted to beat around the bush to criticize traditional Chinese medicine. His target was Qin Haodong, but the first one to stand up against him was Sun Bowie. Although Sun Bowie did not like Qin Haodong, the Sun family had been practicing traditional Chinese medicine for generations and regarded Sun Simiao as their ancestor. How could he allow others to slander traditional Chinese medicine? Guo Tao said with disdain, "What? Could it be that I'm wrong? Apart from treating some minor diseases such as colds and fevers, what else can traditional Chinese medicine do? Do you know how many kinds of viruses there are? Do you know what the structure of the virus is? Do you know which antibiotics are effective for which virus? Do you know what treatment is the most targeted? Sun Bowie was speechless by Guo Tao's series of rhetorical questions. Although he had also gone to college, he had majored in traditional Chinese medicine, so he didn't know anything about Western medicine. Sun Fengqing shook his head slightly. His grandson was still too young and impulsive. However, Qin Haodong had a better impression of Sun Bowie. He was able to stand up for traditional Chinese medicine at this time, which naturally won his favor. He said, "Mr. Guo, right? I don't think your questions are reasonable. We study traditional Chinese medicine, which has its own medical system. There's no need to know about Western medicine." Sun Bowie came to his senses and said, "That's right. We're traditional Chinese medicine practitioners. As long as we can cure diseases, it's enough. Why do we study those viruses?" Guo Tao stared at Qin Haodong and said, "I don't want to tell you more about medicine, but let me ask you. The source of infection is probably bats. How much do you know about bats? Do you know how many teeth a bat has? Do you know the habits of bats? Do you know how many kinds of germs bats carry?" In his opinion, the pretty boy in front of him would not be able to answer such a professional question. Sure enough, Qin Haodong shook his head. "I don't know either." "If you don't know anything, what qualifications do you have to join the expert panel? Just because you have a plane?" Guo Tao was now confident. After all, the plane was flying in the air. No matter how powerful Qin Haodong was, he could not turn the plane around and fly back, let alone drive Guo Tao down from the air. It was because of this idea that he dared to stand up and unscrupulously suppress Qin Haodong. He wanted to slap him in the face and make his existence known. But this time, Qin Haodong ignored him at all. Instead, he smiled and said to Su Hui beside him, "I just came out in a hurry and haven't had lunch yet. Are you hungry?" Su Hui nodded. After a long morning, it was already 1:10 p.m. She was indeed a little hungry. Moreover, the capital was thousands of kilometers away from Yundian province. They were expected to arrive in the evening, so they had to have lunch at noon. Not only were they hungry, but the others also rushed to the plane. No one had time to have lunch. At the moment, they were already hungry. Because of this, everyone stopped talking and waited for lunch. "Well, let's eat," Qin Haodong said and waved to the two flight attendants next to him. The flight attendants immediately began to distribute lunch. Lunch was in the form of a set meal. Each person had a plate. The dishes on the plate were very rich, including beef with soy sauce, braised chicken, steamed fish, several kinds of vegetables and rice. It smelled delicious and made people want to eat it. The flight attendants distributed the set meal one by one. In the end, everyone had a set meal. Only Guo Tao had nothing in front of him. He suddenly became anxious and shouted, "Qin, what do you mean? Are you going to avenge a personal grudge?" Qin Haodong picked up a piece of beef with soy sauce, put it in his mouth and chewed it slowly. After eating it, he said faintly, "Mr. Guo, I also want to ask you a few questions. Let's see if you can answer them." Guo Tao said angrily, "You're not convinced, are you? As long as it's about biology, I'm sure I can give you an answer." In terms of professional knowledge, although he was not as good as Professor Wang Imin, who led the team, he thought he was 100 times better than others. Qin Haodong pointed to the braised chicken in front of him with chopsticks and said, "Mr. Guo, tell me, what was the color of this chicken when it was alive?" Guo Tao almost choked to death by his own saliva. Who could answer such a question? Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You can't tell me, can you? Then tell me, how many hairs did this cow have when it was alive? How many scales did this fish have? How much food did they eat in total? How many kilograms did it grow to?" Guo Tao said angrily, "Qin Haodong, what kind of bullshit question is this? Who can answer it?" Qin Haodong said indifferently, "Since you can't answer it, what qualifications do you have to eat?" The people around burst into laughter. Originally, they all thought that Qin Haodong would swallow his anger. They didn't expect that the young man's way of fighting back was so special and sharp. Guo old face swelled like a pig's liver. He said unwillingly, "What does it have to do with these questions?" Qin Haodong said, "Can traditional Chinese medicine cure diseases? Whether or not I'm qualified to join the panel of experts, what does that have to do with your bullsh *t? You don't need to know the detailed information of the cow to eat beef. Why do traditional Chinese medicine practitioners have to figure out the situation of bats and poisonous snakes? We only need to be able to detoxify and cure diseases. The rest is meaningless nonsense." As for the qualification of traditional Chinese medicine practitioners to participate in the expert group, it's not something that people like you can question. Keep your mouth shut and go back to get your benefits. His identity was exposed in public. Guo shouted angrily, "Qin Haodong, no matter what, you have no right not to give me food." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Mr. Guo, you have to know that I lent this plane to the Ministry of Health. You are also a member of the expert group. You can sit here, but I didn't promise Minister Xiao to be responsible for logistics. In principle, everyone should prepare their own lunch. I'm willing to provide food for others, but I'm not willing to do it for people like you." Guo face turned red, but he couldn't say anything. Indeed, the plane belonged to him, and the food was also his. It was a favor to give him food, and it was his duty not to give him food. He had no right to ask others to prepare lunch for him. Smelling the aroma of the food, his stomach growled. He couldn't help looking at Zhuo Bufan, wanting to ask his team leader for help. But he found that his previous helpers and comrades didn't even look at him. They just attacked the food in front of them, including Zhuo Bufan. He didn't even raise his head and didn't mean to help him. In fact, everyone on the plane could see that the young man in front of them couldn't be provoked. Once they spoke up for Guo, they might lose their lunch. In this way, Guo could only watch others eat and keep swallowing his saliva. He regretted it so much now. Why did he say that just now? Even if he wanted to say something, he should have waited until after lunch. Now he was in such a mess. After lunch, the flight attendants took away the plates and everyone leaned against their seats to rest. After a while, Yi Liying's face became paler and paler. She frowned and looked painful. Qin Haodong said, "Sister, are you airsick?" Yi Liying nodded and said, "I do have such a problem. It's okay for a short flight, but once I sit for a long time, I will get airsick." At this time, Zhao Meng came over and said, "Sister, let me introduce myself. I'm the director of the Internal Medicine Department of the Central Hospital and a returned doctor from M country. I can help you see if you feel uncomfortable." This time, he came out to be gilded, but it was also good to have a few romantic encounters in the process. So after getting on the plane, he kept looking at the three women opposite him. The most beautiful woman on the plane was Su Hui, but she had been sitting next to Qin Haodong and didn't even look at him, so he naturally had no chance. Although the woman in front of him was a little old, she was still very beautiful and plump. She was the kind of mature young woman that men liked the most, so this guy seized the opportunity to please her. Yi Liying held her forehead with her hand and said, "Thank you, Dr. Zhao. I'm fine. I'm just a little airsick and nauseous. Sister, I'm the best at treating airsickness. I have some medicine here. You'll be fine after taking one." Zhao Meng took out a small bottle from his pocket and gave it to Yi Liying. Yi Liying looked at the medicine in Zhao Meng's hand, shook her head and said, "It's useless, Dr. Zhao. My body is special and I'm allergic to this kind of medicine. Otherwise, I would have taken it before I got on the plane." Well, Zhao Meng originally wanted to please her, but he didn't succeed. Sun Bowie said, "Doctor, do you have any other way?" As a Chinese medicine practitioner, he had unconsciously stood on the same side as Qin Haodong. Zhao Meng said with a little embarrassment, "Sister Ye's body is special and she's allergic to medicine, so I don't have any good way. Let me do it." Qin Haodong took out his needle bag and said to Yi Liying, "Sister Yi, acupuncture is also good for treating airsickness. Do you want me to give you an injection?" Yi Liying said, "Thank you, Dr. Qin. You're welcome. We're all members of the same team." It's our duty to help each other. After that, Qin Haodong pierced several acupoints on Yi Liying's head and chest with silver needles. It was amazing. As soon as the silver needles were pierced, Yi Liying's nausea and discomfort disappeared, and she became much more energetic. Dr. Qin, your medical skills are really amazing. Thank you. Qin Haodong smiled. After 5 minutes, he took back all the silver needles. At this time, Dong Anna said in a charming voice, Dr. Qin, your medical skills are so good. Let me have a look. I'm also a little uncomfortable. Hearing her words, Su Hui frowned. Although she was simple by nature, she could see that this woman was not sick at all. Instead, she wanted to seduce Qin Haodong. As a doctor, Qin Haodong could not refuse. He said, "What's wrong with you?" Dong Anna reached out to touch her towering chest and said coquettishly, "I'm so uncomfortable here. Maybe I'm also airsick. Why don't you give me an injection?" Qin Haodong said, "I'd better feel your pulse." Chapter 775. That's fine. Dong Anna said as she walked up to Qin Haodong. She deliberately did not sit down. Instead, she bent over and gave him her hand. Originally, her collar was already very low. As she bent down, the scenery inside the collar was undoubtedly revealed. Coupled with her 2 long white legs, it was incomparably tempting to any man. Dong Anna was extremely proud. With her experience in seducing men over the years, it would be easy for her to win over this handsome guy. But what she didn't expect was that Qin Haodong turned a blind eye to everything in front of him and just concentrated on feeling her pulse. After a while, he withdrew his hand and said, "Your disease is only suitable for taking medicine, not injections. If you're willing, I'll get you a house. You'll be fine in half a month." Dong Anna was slightly stunned. She had just had a physical examination a few days ago. She was very healthy. How could she be sick? The reason why she came to feel her pulse was to seduce the handsome man in front of her. So in her opinion, Qin Haodong must have misdiagnosed her. But these were not important. She added, "Dr. Qin, I think I'm more suitable for injections. Don't you men like injections? Just use that thick one and give me a needle." If the seduction was subtle just now, it was very straightforward now. Qin Haodong frowned. He had already felt the messy smell of men on this woman. There were at least dozens of them. How could this kind of trash attract his attention? "Miss Dong, I'm sorry. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. I'm not interested in injections. If you like it, you'd better go to a Western medicine practitioner." She was seducing him openly, and Qin Haodong refused her without hesitation. After saying that, everyone in the cabin focused their eyes on her. Just when she was extremely embarrassed, Zhao Meng came over with his bottle of medicine. "Miss Dong, it doesn't matter. Aren't you just airsick? I have medicine here." "Okay, thank you." After saying that, Dong Anna did not reach out to take the medicine. Instead, she took Zhao Meng's hand and walked directly into the cabin. After she left, Su Hui whispered to Qin Haodong, "Aren't you tempted by such a beautiful woman? Why is she beautiful? She can't even compare to you." While Qin Haodong was talking, he saw Dong Anna and Zhao Meng enter the bathroom of the plane together. He believed that as long as he was not stupid, he could guess what a man and a woman were doing in the bathroom. They shook their heads. "Looks like he's really sick." Su Hui said in surprise, "What are you talking about? Who's sick?" Qin Haodong said, "The woman just now." "Is she sick? Why can't I see that? He seems to be in good spirits." "Of course she's sick. Otherwise, why would I prescribe her medicine?" Qin Haodong said, "This woman's excessive hormone secretion led to metabolic disorder in the body, excessive release of sex hormones, causing sex drive. Increase in glandular hormones." "What do you mean?" Su Hui still didn't quite understand. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "To put it bluntly, it's sexual hunger. Hearing his words, Su Hui blushed. She reached out and hit him on the chest, saying, "You're not serious again." "I'm being serious." Qin Haodong said with a serious expression, "This is also a kind of disease. If it lasts for a long time, it will cause hormone overdraft and the body to be deficient. It's fine if she takes medicine now, but the longer it takes, the worse it will be for her body." Su Hui said, "Forget it. If you tell her this, I'm afraid she will think that you're going to be a hooligan." Qin Haodong nodded. He really had no intention of treating Dong Anna. Just now, he had done his duty as a doctor, but the other party didn't believe him, so there was no need to chase after her to treat her. Due to the urgency of the situation, after the communication between the Department of Sanity and the military, at 5:00 in the afternoon, Qin Haodong's plane landed directly at the military airport closest to Oxhorn Village. When the plane landed, Wang Donglin, the deputy director of the Department of Sanity, was already waiting there. First, he arranged for the members of the expert group to have a simple working meal, and then he rushed to Wangshan Village, where Oxhorn Village was located. From the heart of Huaxia to the southernmost part, from the prosperous capital to this small county, everyone immediately felt the huge gap between the two places. Along the way, they did not see the high-rise buildings that modern cities should have. Looking around, they saw the most primitive green mountains and clear waters. As the bus drove, it suddenly stopped. There was no road ahead, but there were dozens of villagers in plain clothes standing there. Wang Donglin stood up from the front and said to everyone, "Experts, according to the requirements of the higher-ups, we must rush to Wangshan Village today and start working tomorrow morning. However, the conditions here are a little bad. It's still 3 kilometers away from Wangshan Village, but there are only small roads. Vehicles can't pass, so we can only rely on walking." Before they came, they had already thought that this place would be very backward, but they didn't expect that it would be so backward that even the road had not been repaired. They had no choice but to pack up their bags and get off the bus. After Wang Donglin got off the bus, he organized the villagers to carry the equipment from the bus over with the reception staff. Before coming here, the Ministry of Health had already made the corresponding arrangements. The most advanced equipment had been dismantled into small boxes and packed up. After arriving at the destination, they would be assembled. Otherwise, they would not be able to transport it in. After everything was arranged, the group was ready to set out for Wangshan Village. Wait a minute. With a stiff Huaxia language, a woman with a camera on her chest and a big bag on her back ran over from behind. When she got closer, everyone realized that she was a Caucasian woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. She was wearing a mountaineering top and a pair of jeans. The loose outfit could not hide her hot body, especially the high curvature of her chest, which made the camera stand up. The woman glanced at the box full of medical equipment and asked, "Are you the medical team rushing to Oxhorn Village in Wangshan Village?" Seeing the woman's clothes, Wang Zhonglin immediately became nervous and said, "No, we're just villagers in the village. We want to buy some things and go back." "You're lying." The woman pointed to the box next to her and said, "These are all medical equipment. I know them. You must be the medical team." Seeing that he could not deny it, Wang Zhonglin said, "Miss, what can I do for you?" "My name is Cathaway. I'm a reporter from the world-famous magazine Eye of the Earth. I heard that a very strange case was found here, so I want to interview you." As she spoke, the woman handed a reporter's card to Wang Zhonglin. It turned out that Cathaway had come to Huaxia for a vacation. She had always longed for the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau, so she came here to travel. She was also very proficient in Huaxia. By chance, she heard the villagers around her say that zombies had appeared in Oxhorn Village in Wangshan Village. As an excellent reporter, she immediately realized that this was an important news clue. She did some surrounding investigations and found out that there were not really zombies here, but a special case, so she had to rush to Wangshan Village to do a news investigation. Hearing the woman's background, the people around were shocked. Eye of the Earth was one of the most famous magazines in the world. It was centered in Europe and had a strong influence all over the world. Wang Zhonglin was the most nervous. This matter was highly confidential. If it was really reported by this reporter, it would definitely be big trouble. He returned the reporter's card to Cathaway and said, "I'm sorry, miss. I don't know what case you're talking about, and I can't accept your interview." Cathaway was extremely smart. Of course, she would not easily believe Wang Zhonglin. She shook her head and said, "Since you don't want to accept my interview, I can only interview the villagers there." After that, she was about to walk down the path. Wang Zhonglin quickly reached out and stopped her. "Miss Cathaway, you can't go." Cathaway's face immediately became cold. She said seriously, "Although you didn't say it, I also know that you are an official of Huaxia. But I am a reporter, and I have the right to interview anything. If you dare to stop me, I will let the whole world know your barbaric behavior." This, Wang Zhonglin's face turned red. He was in a dilemma. If he agreed to let Cathaway enter the interview, it would violate the rules of the higher-ups. If something happened, he could not afford it. If he didn't agree and Cathaway really released the news, then the whole of Huaxia would face the pressure of public opinion from the international community. If it was a reporter from Huaxia, it would be easier to deal with it. It would be fine to say hello to their newspaper through the government. But she was a reporter from Eye of the Earth, so these methods naturally wouldn't work. Seeing the two of them standing there, Qin Haodong pulled Wang Zhonglin aside and said, "Director Wang, why don't we let this reporter follow our medical team?" Wang Zhonglin said nervously, "How can we do that? What if she reports our situation here?" Qin Haodong said, "It's not as serious as you think. Think about it. If our medical team can successfully eliminate the virus in this incident, it will be a positive show to the whole world. Are we still afraid of being reported?" Wang Zhonglin said, "This is a new virus. What if we can't control it?" Qin Haodong said lightly, "With the characteristics of this virus, if we can't control it, Director Wang, do you think we can cover up the fire?" This, Wang Zhonglin was stunned. This was indeed the case. This incident was similar to a biochemical crisis. If it was not controlled well, it would be a disaster for the whole human race. It could not be hidden even if they wanted to. Qin Haodong said again, "Well, Director Wang, let her follow me. I will try my best to guide her to report in a positive way." Wang Zhonglin hesitated for a moment. He knew that this matter was just as Qin Haodong had said. He couldn't stop her even if he wanted to. It was better to guide her in a positive way than to let her report at will. "Well, Dr. Qin, I'll have to trouble you with this matter." After making the decision, Wang Zhonglin pointed to Qin Haodong and said to Cathaway, "This is Dr. Qin from Huaxia, a member of the medical team this time. You can interview him, but you must follow him. If you agree, I will allow you to go in. If you don't, I can only refuse." "I agree." Cathaway readily agreed. In fact, she was just threatening Wang Zhonglin. She was not familiar with the situation here. There was no record of Oxhorn Village in Wangshan Village on the mobile phone map, so she couldn't find the location. If she followed the medical team, it would save a lot of trouble. The reporter from the Eye of the Earth suddenly joined in. Wang Zhonglin did not enter Wangshan Village with the expert group. After arranging the work, he hurried back to the Department of Sanity to report the situation to his superiors. After all, this was not a small matter. After this small disturbance, the experts and the villagers began to officially set off. After setting off, everyone found that the so-called path was actually not much different from having no road. As the saying goes, there is no road in the world. It is only because there are many people walking that roads appear. This path was often stepped on by the villagers. Although it was relatively smooth, it was uneven and rugged, and some places were very dangerous. Chapter 776. The dozens of villagers were obviously used to this kind of road. Although they were carrying hundreds of kilograms of equipment on their shoulders, they still walked as if they were flying and soon disappeared in front of them. At the beginning, the experts were very excited. They walked and stopped, enjoying the surrounding scenery while taking pictures with their cameras and mobile phones. But after walking for about a kilometer, these people were completely dumbfounded. They were all panting and sweating profusely. They looked exhausted and were no longer in the mood to take pictures. They put away their mobile phones. Qin Haodong was the only one in the team of experts who looked relaxed. This kind of road was nothing for a saint-level expert. As a reporter, Cathaway had been running around all year round. In addition, she usually paid attention to physical exercise, so her physical strength was good. She had been following Qin Haodong closely and asking him questions. It was naturally inconvenient for Qin Haodong to tell her more about Oxhorn Village, so he told her about traditional Chinese medicine. Cathaway was also very interested in this kind of medical skill that she had never heard of and listened very attentively. In contrast, Su Hui's physical strength was not as good as Cathaway's. After walking for a while, she was already tired and sweating profusely. Qin Haodong said pitifully, "You must be tired. How about I carry you on my back?" Su Hui said, "How can you do that? You're very tired too. Do you see how tired I am?" Qin Haodong squatted down with a smile and carried Su Hui on his back. Even though there was one more person, it did not affect his speed at all. He formed a team with the guide and Cathaway left in Wangshan village. It was the first team. Cathaway followed behind him and said with admiration, "Qin, you're so great. You're so kind to your girlfriend." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "It's the characteristic of our Huaxia men to be kind to women." Cathaway said, "Really? Then I'll also find a Huaxia boyfriend in the future." They chatted and laughed as they walked forward. Following closely behind them, unexpectedly, was old Master Sun Fengqing. Although this old man was already over 70 years old, he had never stopped practicing Ba Duan Jin and 5 animal frolics. His physical fitness was no worse than a young man's. Although Sun Bowie followed his grandfather closely, he was sweating profusely and was far less relaxed than Sun Fengqing. As for Zhuo Bufan and Zhao Meng, the 2 doctors of Western medicine, they were even worse. With the title of expert professors, they were used to living a comfortable life. After taking a few steps, they began to feel sore in their backs and legs. They had been following at the back of the team. Dong Anna was also very tired. She looked at Su Hui lying on Qin Haodong's back with envy. If only someone could carry her on his back. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but turn around to look at Zhao Meng, but at this time, Zhao Meng was already panting like a bull and sweating profusely. His tongue was almost sticking out, and he didn't look attractive at all. Useless thing. Dong Anna cursed and could only walk forward with all her might. "Qin, your stamina is really good," Catherine said in admiration. She was full of curiosity about this Asian man. He looked gentle and weak, but he was stronger than the fitness champions in their country. The guide also said, "Yes, the young man is in good health. He is no worse than us mountain people." When a middle-aged man with a weathered face saw that Qin Haodong could easily follow him with a person on his back, he was full of admiration. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "It's nothing. In fact, my girlfriend is too light." The guide agreed with his statement. He nodded and said, "The girls in your city are too slender. With this kind of body, you can't find a husband in our mountains." Every place had its own different values and views on choosing a spouse. In their mountains, everyone had to do heavy physical labor, so the stronger a woman was, the more popular she would be and the easier it would be for her to find a husband. Qin Haodong turned his head and said to Su Hui, who was on his back, with a smile, "Did you hear that? You have to eat more in the future and become stronger." "I don't want to." Su Hui was very concerned about her figure. As long as she gained a little weight, she would immediately lose weight. She couldn't accept the aesthetic standards in the mountains. They talked and laughed as they walked. After more than an hour, they were almost halfway there. At this time, Zhuo Bufan, who was behind them, called out weakly, "Tour guide, let's take a rest. We really can't move anymore." After that, he and Zhao Meng sat down on a rock next to them, gasping for breath. The tour guide turned around and said helplessly, "You can take a rest, but not for too long. There are many wild beasts in our mountains, such as wild wolves, leopards, and black bears. It's fine at dawn, but it'll be dangerous once it gets dark." Guo Tao rubbed his aching ankle and complained, "What a lousy place this is. I won't come here again." Zhao Meng took out a bottle of mineral water from his backpack, opened the lid, and handed it to Zhuo Bufan. "Director, drink some water." Zhuo Bufan drank half of it in one breath and returned the remaining half to Zhao Meng. Zhao Meng took it and drank the rest of the water in one breath. Qin Haodong put Su Hui down. The two of them did not look tired at all. They laughed and took photos. Zhuo Bufan was furious. He didn't know how this guy grew up. He had walked for so long with a woman on his back, but he was not tired at all. Seeing what he was thinking, Zhao Meng said, "Director, don't look at this guy's pride. It's just that his physical fitness is better. In fact, he's a rough man. What can he do here? When we get there, we'll still have to treat the patients." Zhuo Bufan deeply agreed and nodded hard. In the eyes of returnees like them, people like Qin Haodong, who had not finished college, were rough. From the bottom of his heart, he also felt that Qin Haodong could join the expert group because of his relationship with Xiao Weiman. In the end, it was up to them to solve the crisis. While the two of them were secretly fantasizing, a scream suddenly came from the side. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw that it was Dong Anna who had screamed. Next to her, a yellow and black snake instantly got into the grass next to her. When the tour guide saw the snake, he immediately shouted nervously, "Be careful, everyone. This is a kite. It's very poisonous." After hearing the tour guide's shout, Dong Anna cried out miserably, "Help me! Help me! I was just bitten by a kite." At this time, there were 2 small holes on her left ankle, which had been bitten by a venomous snake. The kite was indeed as poisonous as the tour guide had said. At this time, the skin around the 2 small holes quickly turned black. In a short time, the entire ankle was swallowed by the black color. Moreover, the black color did not stop. It slowly spread upward at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this time, Dong Anna was so scared that she was at a loss. She knew that the more poisonous the snake was, the less painful it would be. At this time, she did not feel any pain in her ankle at all. At first, she felt a little numb, but later, even this feeling disappeared, as if this foot was not hers at all. She hurriedly shouted to Zhuo Yifan, "Dr. Zhuo, aren't you a world-famous medical expert? Aren't you a returnee? Hurry up and save me. Hurry up and save me. I'm going to be poisoned to death." Seeing this situation, Zhuo Yifan was completely dumbfounded. Yes, his medical skills were indeed very good, but the best way to deal with this kind of snake venom was to inject antitoxin serum. However, this place was remote and didn't even have the most basic medical equipment, let alone antitoxin serum. Seeing Dong Anna asking for help, although he was also anxious, there was nothing he could do. "There's nothing here. I can't do anything about it. Dr. Zhuo, you can't watch me die like this. I'm not even 30 years old this year." Dong Anna shouted and suddenly remembered the plot in the TV series. Once bitten by a poisonous snake, if the poisonous blood was sucked out, there would be hope for survival. She said to Zhao Meng, "Zhao Meng, hurry up and help me suck out the poisonous blood. Then I'll be saved." The reason why she chose Zhao Meng to help her was that the two of them had already had a relationship beyond friendship in the bathroom of the plane, so they were much closer than others. Seeing that Dong Anna asked him to help her, Zhao Meng took 2 steps back and said embarrassedly, "I'm sorry, Anna. This kind of poisonous snake is too poisonous. If I help you suck it out, not only will I not be able to save you, but I will also die." What a joke. Although he was lecherous, his life was still the most important. He would not sacrifice himself to save others no matter what. Seeing that he didn't help, Dong Anna scolded angrily, "Bastard, when you were having fun with me yesterday, weren't you afraid of losing yourself?" No matter how she shouted, Zhao Meng would not help her. He flashed and hid behind Zhuo Bufan. Zhuo Bufan was also very anxious. This time, he was the one who led the team out. Before they arrived at the rescue site, they had lost one person before the battle began. When he returned to the Ministry of Health, he would not be able to explain it no matter what. Even if they finally got rid of the virus in Oxhorn Village, they would not be able to make any contributions when they went back. Moreover, Dong Anna was here to gain experience. Her family was very powerful. If she really died here, it would be very troublesome. Suddenly, he had an idea and said to the tour guide next to him, "Brother, you mountain people should have a way to deal with snake venom, right? Do you have any snake medicine with you?" The tour guide said, "We mountain people usually pay special attention to poisonous snakes. We rarely get bitten. Even if we are bitten, we will go to the village to find a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. He can help us detoxify the poison. But it's too far from the village, and the venom of the kite is very strong. I'm afraid that the little girl will die before I get back to the village. You'd better think of another way." This, seeing that the tour guide had no way, Zhuo Bufan was disappointed. At this time, Yi Liying said, "Leader, there are 4 doctors of traditional Chinese medicine in our team, and 2 of them are national masters of traditional Chinese medicine. They can definitely save Xiaodong." "Yes." After being reminded by Yi Liying, Zhuo Bufan remembered that he also had a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine with him, but he didn't want to ask Qin Haodong for help. He walked up to Sun Fengqing and said, "Mr. Sun, it's a matter of life and death. Please think of a way." Sun Bowie said, "What's wrong, doctor? Isn't Western medicine very powerful? Can't you even detoxify the snake venom? Didn't you just say that our traditional Chinese medicine is useless on the plain? Why are you begging us now?" This, Zhuo Bufan was speechless. If it weren't for Dong Anna's life and death, he would have left. But now he didn't dare to, so he could only look at Sun Fengqing with a pleading face. Sun Fengqing ignored him and turned to look at Qin Haodong. "Little brother Qin, what do you think?" Qin Haodong knew that the old man was not asking him whether he could save Dong Anna or not, but to test him. He said, "According to the records of our ancient Chinese medicine books, all things reinforce and restrain each other. Wherever poisonous creatures appear, there must be medicine that can restrain each other within 7 steps. Although this is a little exaggerated, there must be medicine nearby that can detoxify the kite's poison." A look of approval flashed across Sun Fengqing's face. He nodded and said, "Little brother Qin, thank you for your hard work." Chapter 777. Hearing that she could still be saved, Dong Anna begged, "Dr. Qin, please save me. I'm really going to die. As long as you save me, I can do whatever you want." At this time, the poison had attacked her, and her entire calf had turned black. Qin Haodong knew her situation very well. The reason why he did not rush to save her was that he knew that she would not die for the time being. In fact, it was very easy to save Dong Anna. There was a secret detoxification pill in his storage ring. However, the detoxification pill was made of precious medicinal materials that had been in the Jiuli Forbidden Land for 5,000 years. It was a waste to use it to detoxify the kite's poison, so he was reluctant to use it. He stood up and walked to the hillside not far away. He reached out and picked up a green plant. There was a small flower on the green rhizome of this plant. This flower looked a little special, like a lotus flower that had lost half of its parts. Cathaway took a photo with her camera and then asked curiously, "Qin, is this flower the Chinese medicine that you said can save people?" Qin Haodong said, "Yes, this is a famous Chinese medicine called lobelia. It has the effect of clearing heat, detoxifying, diuresis, and reducing swelling. It's the best detoxification medicine. As the saying goes, if you pick up lobelia, you will dare to sleep with a poisonous snake. It's talking about the magical detoxification effect of lobelia. Cathaway nodded as if she understood. Then she took out her mobile phone, turned on the camera function, and recorded the whole process of saving people. Qin Haodong found a plastic bag and put the leaves of lobelia in it. Then he found a stone and mashed it into mud. Then he took out the medicine mud and applied it to Dong Anna's wound. It was amazing. After applying lobelia to the wound, the black qi on her calf no longer attacked. On the contrary, it began to slowly fade down. Seeing this scene, Cathaway shouted at the mobile phone in her hand, "My God, guess what I saw? I encountered a magical medical skill in Huaxia. I actually used a flower to save a patient who was bitten by a poisonous snake. It's amazing." Sun Fengqing and Sun Bowie also observed Dong Anna's injury. The black qi caused by the kite had slowly dissipated. Dong Anna's calf returned to its previous color, leaving only 2 teeth marks left by the poisonous snake. Sun Fengqing said, "Lobelia is the best for detoxifying snake venom. You can recover after resting in bed for 3 days." Seeing that her life was saved, Dong Anna breathed a sigh of relief. Her charming eyes wandered again and stared at Qin Haodong's handsome face. "Dr. Qin, thank you for saving me." "It's nothing. I'm a doctor. Saving people is my responsibility. Besides, we're teammates now. It's only right for me to help you." Qin Haodong didn't want this hormonal woman to stick to him, so he directly cut off his relationship with her. But Dong Anna didn't want to give up such a rare opportunity. She put on a pitiful expression and said in a coquettish voice, "Dr. Qin, but I'm injured now. Dr. Sun said that I need to rest for 3 days. You have the best physical strength in our team. Can you carry me on your back?" She secretly thought that as long as she could get on Qin Haodong's back, she could find a way to drag him to bed. Qin Haodong had to carry Su Hui on his back. How could he carry this woman? He said, "It doesn't matter. I haven't given you acupuncture yet. It will only take 2 minutes." As he spoke, he took out the needle bag, took out the silver needles, and began to perform acupuncture on Dong Anna. His first needle pierced the Baihui acupoint on the top of Dong Anna's head, followed by the Naiwen Gong and the Dazhui acupoints. He moved like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of silver needles pierced Dong Anna's body. Although the snake had only bitten her calf, some slight toxins had already flowed through her body through the blood circulation. Therefore, generally speaking, she needed to rest for 3 days and wait for the lobelia to slowly remove all the toxins. But Qin Haodong didn't have the time to wait. He used the silver needles to remove the toxins from the top of her head to the calf below, and then he discharged them from the small hole that the snake had just bitten. The whole process only took 2 minutes. Seeing 2 drops of black blood being discharged from the snake's teeth marks, Qin Haodong squeezed her calf until fresh blood was discharged and then withdrew the silver needles. "Well, you've completely recovered now. You can walk on your own." Seeing that she had failed to seduce him, Dong Anna could only glare at Qin Haodong bitterly and then stand up again. Cathaway excitedly shouted at the mobile phone in her hand again, "My God, traditional Chinese medicine is really amazing." A patient who was just bitten by the kite actually stood up again in such a short time and completely recovered. Seeing that Dong Anna was completely cured, Zhuo Bufan also let out a long sigh of relief. He finally didn't have to bear any responsibility. The guide shouted, "Well, we've already wasted a lot of time. Let's set off quickly, or it will be very troublesome at night." Although everyone was still tired, after experiencing the kite just now, they finally realized that this place was not only beautiful, but also hidden with great danger. They immediately forced themselves to cheer up and followed the guide forward. Dong Anna followed the team closely. Just now, Qin Haodong had used the green with genuine qi to go through her body. Although it was very short, it still nourished her meridians. Not only did her body not feel weak after being injured, but she was also more energetic than before. After observing her condition, Sun Fengqing came to Qin Haodong's side and said to him with emotion, "Little Qin, someone called you medical sage before, and I was quite dissatisfied. I thought that you were just lucky enough to find the prescription of the blood revival elixir and you didn't have any real ability at all. Today, after seeing your medical skills, I realized that I was a frog at the bottom of a well before. I was very wrong. I admit that I'm not as good as you in medical skills." Qin Haodong had always been a person who would repay kindness with kindness and revenge with hatred. If someone wanted to pretend, he would slap their face. Similarly, if others were modest, he would never be proud. Hearing Sun Fengqing's words, he said, "Senior, you flatter me. You are the leader of our traditional Chinese medicine circle. My medical skills can't compare with yours." Sun Fengqing shook his head and said, "I've always been a man of my word. I've never been in the habit of flattering others. What I said is completely sincere. To tell you the truth, I just wanted to test you, but I didn't expect you to perform so well. Even if I personally treated this girl's injury, I wouldn't be able to cure her as quickly as you did. She would need at least half a day to recuperate. But in this case, if she can't walk immediately, the consequences will be serious, so your medical skills are much better than mine." After getting along with Qin Haodong during this period of time, Sun Boyi also put away his previous arrogance and said to Qin Haodong with shame, "Dr. Qin, I offended you before. Now I'm convinced by your medical skills." He had lost his temper in the clinic yesterday. Now even his grandfather admired Qin Haodong's medical skills, so he naturally had nothing to say and completely lost his desire for Su Hui. After that, they walked forward while talking about traditional Chinese medicine. Sun Fengqing didn't deserve to be the successor of Sun Simiao, the king of medicine. He had unique views on many diseases, which made Qin Haodong have a new understanding of him. The more Sun Fengqing talked about it, the more shocked he became. Qin Haodong's understanding and attainments of traditional Chinese medicine were far beyond his imagination. He really didn't know how this young man learned it. Before the darkness engulfed the whole mountain area, they finally arrived at their final destination, the Wangshan village government. The so-called village government here, in fact, only had 7 or 8 houses, all of which were made of large stones from the mountains. Although they looked a little simple, they were very strong. At this time, the front of the house was heavily guarded, and armed police soldiers with live ammunition were guarding here. In front of the house was a large flat open space, about 200 square meters. At this time, 2 huge tents had been set up in the open space. Each tent could accommodate 10 to 20 people. It seemed that it was prepared for them. Fortunately, there was electricity here. A 200-watt incandescent light bulb had been hung in front of the government, which looked bright. After everyone arrived, Li Laozhen, the village chief of the Wangshan village government, immediately came out to welcome them. He asked everyone to put down their bags and start dinner. The dinner prepared here didn't look sumptuous, but it tasted good. It was all wild animals and wild vegetables that were hunted in the mountains. These things were extremely rare in the city. In addition, everyone was really tired and hungry, so they ate with relish. While everyone was eating, Li Laozhen began to introduce the situation here to the group of experts. It turned out that there were 8 main rooms in the village government, but now the Department of Sanity had set them as isolation rooms for these infected people. In order to prevent the spread of the virus that had not yet been figured out, no one was allowed to get close, let alone live there. Therefore, the experts could only receive the 2 large tents in the yard as a temporary station. After the introduction, he said apologetically, "Great experts, the conditions in the mountains are simple. I'm really sorry." Qin Haodong didn't care about this. When he had cultivated in the mountains, the conditions were much simpler than here. But some people were not used to it. Dong Anna frowned and said, "Can we take a bath here?" Li Laozhen said, "We rarely take a bath here. When we take a bath, we have to go to the small river 1 kilometer away." Hearing what he said, everyone who had wanted to take a bath gave up the idea. Not to mention that no one dared to go at this time of the dark. Even if they dared to go, they would be covered in sweat after coming back from the 1-kilometer mountain road. It was no different from not taking a bath. It seemed that they could only overcome the difficulties in the next few days. They hoped to solve the virus here as soon as possible and then return to the capital. After dinner, Qin Haodong said to Li Laozhen, "Mr. Li, can we go and see the patient?" Zhuo Bufan said, "Dr. Qin, it's too late now. Even if we see the patient, we can't do anything. Let's wait until tomorrow." Qin Haodong said, "I think it's better to take a look as soon as possible. Everyone can know what's going on." Zhuo Bufan's face immediately darkened. He was not on his plane now. He was the team leader. This guy didn't take his opinions seriously at all. Li Laozhen looked simple and honest, but in fact, he was very smart. Seeing that the two of them had different opinions, he immediately said, "It's too late. It's not convenient to go in and see the patient. You can take a look outside the window. You don't have to waste too much time." Thinking that he couldn't do anything from outside, Zhuo Bufan didn't say anything more. Li Laozhen said, "Everyone, please come with me." After that, he led everyone to the isolation room that the township government had changed. In order to completely isolate this place from the outside world, the county government arranged for a company of armed police soldiers to guard this place. Except for the members of the expert group and the village chief, no one else was allowed to enter. Li Laozhen explained to the armed police company commander in charge of the guard, and then led Qin Haodong and the others to the isolation room. They first went to an isolation room on the easternmost side. There was a 25-watt light bulb inside, and the light was a little dim. Chapter 778. Everyone looked inside through the small window. There was a simple wooden bed in the room, and a little girl about 10 years old was lying on the bed. She was in a coma. Li Laozhen said, "When this damned Niu Erwa got sick, the first person he bit was the second girl of the Zhang family. She was originally a good girl, but he made her like this. She has been having a fever since that day." At such a long distance, the others couldn't see anything. Dong Anna and the others didn't even dare to approach the window, as if they were afraid of being infected. However, Qin Haodong had the spirit. He had already seen the girl's physical condition. At this time, Zhang area was in a state of high fever, and there was a faint black qi in the blood in her body. It should be the so-called virus. Qin Haodong asked, "Village chief Li, didn't the medical team deal with the high fever of these infected people?" Li Laozhen said, "How could it not be dealt with? It's just that these people's diseases are very strange. They have used all kinds of antipyretics, but it's useless. They can only be like this." Qin Haodong nodded, and everyone walked to the second isolation room. There was a woman in her 30s lying inside. She was also a villager who had been scratched by Niu Erwa. Her symptoms were not much different from Zhang areas. She was both in a state of fever. They went to 4 more isolation rooms in succession, where the villagers who were injured in the process of stopping Niu Erwa were locked up. These people were all strong men, but their symptoms were no different from Zhang areas. They had a high fever and their bodies contained black qi. They were lying in bed in a coma. When they arrived at the 7th isolation room, Li Laozhen said, "Everyone, be careful. This is the damned Niu Erwa. This guy is very manic." This isolation room was different from the others. It was originally the warehouse of the township government. For the sake of safety, the windows were equipped with steel bars that were thicker than an adult's thumb. Although Niu Erwa had been tied up after he went crazy, Li Laozhen always felt that it was not safe enough, so he locked him in this warehouse. Everyone was also very curious about this patient who was like a vampire, so they looked through the window together. Although there was also a bed in the warehouse, there was no one on it. In the corner of the room stood a sturdy young man. Niu Erwa was originally a hunter, so his body was much stronger than that of others. After he went crazy, he became even more powerful. He was tied with a few ropes as thick as fingers to control him. At this time, there was not a trace of blood on his face. He looked like a real zombie, and under the dim light, he looked even more eerie and terrifying. Seeing this scene, several female members of the expert group could not help but step back, and Dong Anna even let out a scream. Nyo Erwa was standing in the corner like a wooden stake, but the scream seemed to stimulate him. After a bloodthirsty light flashed in his eyes, he rushed to the window. Although all 4 of his limbs were tied up, his feet were extremely fast. His whole body was like a cannonball, and his head fiercely hit the steel bars of the window. The force of the collision was so great that the whole house shook with a loud bang. Dong Anna was scared to death. She turned around and ran away. The others were also shocked by Nyo Erwa's momentum and retreated one after another. Only Chin Haodong still stood in front of the window with a calm expression. His spirit had already seen the situation in Nyo Erwa's body clearly. What was shocking was that there was no blood in Nyo Erwa's body. Instead, it was replaced by thick black qi, which was also a significant difference between him and those patients who were in a coma. At the same time, this kind of black qi also strengthened his body. Just like the collision with all his strength just now, if it were an ordinary person, even if he did not die, he would still die. This chapter is not over, please turn the page. His head was bleeding, but Nyo Erwa's head was not damaged at all. It seemed to be harder than the steel bars on the window. Damn Nyo Erwa. After cursing, Li Laojian said, Dr. Qin, this guy is very strange. Since he got sick, he hasn't eaten for 4 days. Not only did he not starve to death, but he also became stronger day by day. I really don't know what evil spirit he has attracted. Moreover, his head is very hard. He often hits the steel bars here with his head. It looks very scary. Chin Haodong asked, Mr. Li, apart from these, does he have any other characteristics? Anything else? Li Laojian thought for a moment and said, besides, this guy is very interested in blood. We can't let him smell any blood at all. A few days ago, when the village was killing chickens to entertain guests, this guy accidentally smelled the smell of blood. He immediately went crazy and almost destroyed the house. From then on, no one dared to kill chickens here, and they didn't even dare to bring fresh meat to him. When they cooked, they went to the foot of the mountain and didn't dare to get close to him. After briefly asking about the situation, he returned to the station with the others. There were 2 tents in total. Su Hui, Cathaway, Dong Anna, and Yi Liying lived in one tent, and the rest of the male members lived in the other. Li Laojian also lived with Chin Haodong and the others. Before entering the tent, Li Laojian gave everyone a safety education. Experts, this place is not like a big city. This is a mountainous area. At night, there are many wild beasts, so you must be careful. Don't leave here except to go to the toilet. But don't worry. There are lights here, so the beasts don't dare to come here. After he finished speaking, everyone went back to the tent. After a day's flight and walking such a long mountain road, they were indeed tired. There was no other entertainment here, so everyone lay on the bed and began to sleep. Chin Haodong was not tired. He lay on the bed with his head in his hands, thinking about Nyo Erwa's strange condition. After a while, he saw a figure stand up from the corner of the tent, put on his shoes, and walk out quietly. This person was Guo Tao. Chin Haodong thought that he wanted to go to the toilet, so he didn't pay much attention to him. It could be seen that after this guy left the tent, he did not walk in the direction of the toilet. Instead, he walked to another tent next to him. Su Hui lived in another tent. For the sake of safety, Chin Haodong had been paying attention to the movements here. At this time, the door of the tent was also opened, and Dong Anna walked out like a thief. The 2 of them gathered together, held hands, and walked to a dark corner next to them. Seeing their sneaky appearance, Chin Haodong knew what they were going to do, and he couldn't help but be speechless. After tossing and turning for a whole day, they still had to do that kind of thing at night. They were really energetic. Especially Dong Anna, who had already had sex with Zhao Meng on the plane and been bitten by a poisonous snake on the way. still had such a strong need at night. It seemed that her hormones were secreting a lot. Since he was sure that there was no threat to Su Hui's safety, Qin Haodong didn't have a hobby of peeping, so he no longer paid attention to them. In the dark, the 200-watt light bulb on the top of the gate of the township government looked like a small sun, and the light was very bright. In order not to be discovered by others, Guo and Dong Anna walked to a corner at the foot of the mountain. As soon as they arrived here, Guo reached out to hold Dong Anna in his arms as if he had been thirsty for many years. Dong Anna let out a burst of soft laughter. "Bad guy, are you in such a hurry?" "How can I not be in a hurry? This chapter is not over. Please turn the page." "Really? You little vixen, it makes me crazy to look at you." After saying that, Guo untied his belt and began to lift Dong Anna's skirt around her waist. Suddenly, he stopped there as if he had been immobilized, with a depressed look on his face. Dong Anna was already in the mood. Seeing him stop, she asked in confusion, "Honey, why aren't you moving?" Guo said in annoyance, "You're on your period." The air in the mountains was particularly fresh, and he could clearly smell the smell of blood. "What a coincidence," Dong Anna said, but she didn't mean to stop at all. Instead, she looked at Guo with her charming eyes and said, "Honey, do you dare to run the red light?" The fire in Guo's heart had been completely ignited. Originally, he wanted to find a place where there was no one to use the fifth young lady. After hearing Dong Anna's words, he was delighted and said with a smile, "Of course I dare. I'm just afraid that you won't agree." "How can I not agree to this kind of thing? I'm just afraid that you're useless." "Little slut. You'll know soon whether I'm useless or not." As Guo spoke, he pulled off the belt that he had just tied and hugged Dong Anna tightly. A few minutes later, his heavy breathing echoed in the quiet forest. The two of them seemed to have been hungry and thirsty for many years, and they didn't restrain themselves at all because of the unexpected arrival of their period. Guo held Dong Anna's waist tightly and was galloping with all his might. Suddenly, he found two lights in the forest opposite, two green lights. At first, because he was in a highly excited state, he didn't notice it. A few seconds later, he suddenly realized that there were lights here. These were the eyes of a beast. Thinking of Li Laogan's warning, he quickly stopped his unfinished work, pulled up his pants, pulled Dong Anna, and shouted, "Run, there's a wolf coming." In his mind, wolves were the most common in the mountains, but this time he guessed wrong. The beast opposite him was not a wolf, but a more agile and ferocious leopard. At this time, it let out a roar and pounced on the two of them like a storm in the night. Dong Anna was enjoying the constant pleasure, but when she heard Guo's shout and the leopard's roar, she was scared out of her wits. She followed Guo and ran to the tent desperately. As they ran, the two of them shouted at the top of their lungs, "Help, help," they were really frightened. They didn't expect that they would attract a deadly leopard while they were playing. Qin Haodong was just a little sleepy. Qin Haodong was just a little sleepy. When he heard the two people screaming like pigs being slaughtered, he immediately rushed out of the tent. No matter what happened, he had to ensure Su Hui's safety. Sun Fengqin, Li Laogen, and the others also followed closely behind him. Even the women in the other tent ran out. Su Hui instinctively threw herself into Qin Haodong's arms. Everyone looked in the direction of the accident and saw Guo and Dong Anna running over in a sorry state. It had to be said that people could stimulate their instincts at critical times. At this time, the two of them were running at an amazing speed. If they participated in the Olympics, they would probably win gold medals. However, because he was in such a sorry state just now, Guo didn't tie his belt properly. While running at a high speed, his pants suddenly slipped down. This time, it was fatal. The trousers that fell down were like ropes that firmly locked his feet. Just now, he was running too fast, and his body couldn't stop in time. With a plop, he fell to the ground and directly fell face first on the ground. Husband and wife were birds in the same forest. In the face of disaster, they flew separately. Moreover, they were just a pair of wild mandarin ducks. Dong Anna didn't care about him at all and ran forward by herself. End of this chapter. Chapter 779. After seeing the leopard, Li Laozhen immediately returned to the tent to get the shotgun. The leopard was so fast that he didn't have time. In the blink of an eye, the leopard's front paws were on Guotao's white and tender buttocks. Then, it bit the back of his neck. Feeling the ferocity of the leopard, Guotao was completely frightened. This bite could definitely break his neck immediately. The onlookers were all dumbfounded. Although the kite was also very dangerous, it was not as stimulating as the leopard. Seeing that the leopard was about to bite Guotao's neck, a black shadow suddenly flew out and directly shot through the leopard's head. The leopard's huge body flew 3 or 4 meters away and fell to the ground. After twitching a few times, it stopped moving. Li Laozhen took out the shotgun from the tent, only to see that the leopard had fallen in a pool of blood. He turned on the flashlight and looked closer. He saw a branch as thick as a finger penetrating the leopard's left ear and the right ear. The whole brain was penetrated. No wonder it died so quickly. It was Qin Haodong who did it. Although Guotao had been making trouble for him along the way, he was still alive after all. He couldn't just watch him be killed by the leopard. As an excellent reporter, Cathaway did not panic when she saw the leopard. On the contrary, she quickly took out the camera in her hand and recorded everything. When she saw Qin Haodong kill the fierce leopard with a branch, she opened her mouth in surprise and cried out with admiration, "Qin, you're really amazing. Is this the legendary Huaxia Kung Fu?" Qin Haodong nodded slightly and said, "Yes, this is Huaxia Kung Fu. Qin, Huaxia Kung Fu is really great. I want to learn it. Can you teach me?" Cathaway's character was originally enthusiastic and unrestrained. She was so excited that she grabbed Qin Haodong's arm with both hands and kept shaking it. The swaying didn't matter, but her chest, which was already bulging up and down, bounced up and down. It was simply dizzying. Qin Haodong shook her hand gently, shook off her arm and said, "Miss Cathaway, our Huaxia Kung Fu needs to be learned from an early age. It's not suitable for you at this age." Cathaway said with a disappointed expression, "That's a pity." Seeing that the danger was over, everyone ran towards Guotao. The leopard was dead, but it was also lying on the ground motionless. No one knew if it was dead or alive. Cathaway took Qin Haodong's arm and asked, "Qin, how is he? Will it be dangerous?" Imperceptibly, she had now regarded Qin Haodong as an authority among doctors. She immediately asked questions in her mind. The other girls were not as open as her. Seeing that Guotao's big butt was still exposed, they all turned their heads away. Wang Aimin then asked, "Yes, Dr. Qin, how is he now?" No matter what, Guotao was from the same research institute as him, and he didn't want to see his colleague get into trouble. Qin Haodong said, "He's fine. It's just a skin wound on his butt. He fainted from fright." As he spoke, he lifted Guotao's pants and flipped him over. He took out a silver needle and pierced it into the renjong point under his nose. After the silver needle was inserted, Guotao immediately opened his eyes and jumped up from the ground. "Help, help." Obviously, he had not gotten rid of the fear just now. Wang Aimin grabbed his arm and shook it a few times. "Wake up. The leopard is dead." "Ah. Is it dead?" Only then did Guotao stop and look back. When he saw the leopard's body lying on the ground, he heaved a sigh of relief and his heart was finally at ease. But at this time, he was really in a mess. When he was eating with Dong Anna just now, he might have been too engrossed in it, so the front of his pants was covered with blood. Fortunately, his butt had been scratched by the leopard and was bleeding profusely. No one knew where the blood came from. However, the two of them had come here in the middle of the night and even attracted the leopard. Needless to say, everyone knew what they had done. Wang Aimin was also very helpless to meet such an assistant, but Guo Tao was not his subordinate, and he had a strong relationship with his superiors. He had no choice but to say, "It was Dr. Qin who saved you." Guo Tao walked over with an embarrassed face and said, "Dr. Qin, thank you." Qin Haodong didn't bother to pay attention to this kind of person. He didn't even look at him. First, he sent Su Hui back to the tent, and then he went back to rest. Zhuo Bufan looked at Guo Tao and Dong Anna, and his heart was filled with anger. He really didn't know who sent this woman. She was useless, but she was also a troublemaker. In just half a day, she had caused trouble for him twice. Let me tell you, restrain yourself in the future. Otherwise, I will immediately report to my superiors and ask you to leave. Guo Tao and Dong Anna did not belong to the central hospital. His position as the team leader was also a nominal position, so he did not have too many substantive restrictions on them. He could only say this symbolically. After the farce, everyone returned to the tent to rest. The next day, after breakfast, the work officially began. Zhuo Bufan first organized people to assemble the medical equipment they had brought, and then began to test the blood samples collected from Nyo Erwa and several other patients to test the nature of the virus. At the same time, he also checked the source of the wound on Nyo Erwa's body. Near noon, he called all the experts into the tent for a meeting. After the meeting began, Zhuo Bufan took the lead to speak. "Everyone, after our hard work this morning, we have confirmed that the virus in Nyo Erwa's body belongs to a new kind of virus, which we have never come into contact with before. At the same time, through the study of the wounds on his body, we confirmed that he had been bitten by a certain kind of bat before the disease broke out, so we inferred that the unknown virus in his body came from a bat." Yi Liying said, "This kind of virus is very troublesome. At present, there is no medicine that can effectively eliminate it in Huaxia, let alone a vaccine that can prevent it. There is no vaccine in Huaxia, but there is one in M country." A smug look flashed across Zhuo Bufan's face and he continued, "When I was in M country, there was a special case in a small tribe in Africa. After the patient was infected with the virus, it was very difficult for him to move. His arms and legs were like zombies. At that time, that person did not receive effective treatment, but the virus sample in his body was effectively preserved. After that, after the research of the Biochemical Research Department of M country, an effective drug has been developed for this virus. I just called a friend in M country, and he will immediately send the drug here by air. In a few hours, we will be able to completely cure this patient and complete the task assigned to us by the Ministry of Health." Hearing what he said, the others also became excited. If they could completely eliminate this virus and cure Nyo Erwa and the others, everyone would benefit a lot when they went back. In particular, Dong Anna, Guo Tao and the others hated this kind of primitive life, where leopards and poisonous snakes could jump out at any time. They couldn't wait to fly back to the capital immediately. Just when everyone was extremely excited, Qin Haodong said, "Mr. Guo, has the special medicine you mentioned been tested on patients? Can you be sure that it can effectively kill this virus?" Hearing what he said, Zhuo Bufan's face immediately darkened. "Are you questioning me?" Qin Haodong said, "I'm not questioning you. I'm just discussing the feasibility of treating this kind of case. This time, it's a matter of great importance. We have to be careful." Zhuo Bufan said unhappily, "The person who developed this medicine was a senior brother of mine in college. He has a deep understanding of viruses. At the same time, he used this medicine in the laboratory to successfully kill the virus samples left behind by the patient. There is no doubt about this." Qin Haodong said, "Minister Zhuo, I think there are two other points about this special medicine that you mentioned. First of all, the survival ability of the virus in the human body is different from that in the laboratory. Some viruses have a strong vitality in the human body, but once they leave the human body, they will die naturally even without the use of drugs. For example, once the AIDS virus leaves the human body, it only has a few seconds to live. Therefore, this kind of conclusion drawn in the laboratory must be tested in practice. In addition, the virus of the African tribe is only suspected to be the same as that of Nyo Erwa. It is not known whether it is exactly the same, so we should be cautious about this kind of special medicine. After saying these two questions, Zhuo Bufan's face became more and more ugly. In his opinion, Qin Haodong was jealous of him and could not bear to see him make a great contribution in this action. He said with a gloomy expression, "Dr. Qin, which one of the prescriptions prescribed by you Chinese medicine practitioners has been tested? What right do you have to talk to me about clinical trials?" Qin Haodong said, "It's different. Western medicine can't be compared with traditional Chinese medicine. The system of Western medicine has only been around for more than 100 years. Many of the medicines that have been formed need clinical tests before they can be used. But traditional Chinese medicine is different. After 5,000 years of inheritance, our prescriptions and medicines have all been developed in practice. The cases of curing diseases in the past thousands of years are our clinical experiments." Sun Fengqing also said, "I think what Dr. Qin said makes sense. It is still unknown whether that effective medicine can kill the bacteria in Nyo-Erwa. Don't be blindly optimistic." Zhao Meng sneered and said, "I think you Chinese medicine practitioners are jealous of our Western medicine. You don't have any good ideas about viruses. Seeing that Dean Zhua has a special medicine, you are jealous and want to take the credit." Seeing that this guy began to slander traditional Chinese medicine practitioners again, Sun Bowie said, "Nonsense. Who said that our traditional Chinese medicine practitioners can't treat viruses? We also have effective prescriptions for antiviruses." Zhuo Bufan said with a cold face, "All right, stop arguing. I have carefully compared the virus sample in Nyo-Erwa's body with the virus sample in Africa. The two samples are exactly the same. There is no doubt about that. Now what we have to do is to wait for the arrival of the special medicine, and then the disease will be cured." Qin Haodong said, "Dr. Zhua, the virus incident this time is very important, and time is precious. How about this? Can you give a patient to me and Mr. Sun to try with traditional Chinese medicine? Maybe we can find an effective treatment." "Absolutely not. The patient is not a test subject. Every life is priceless. How can we use it casually?" Zhuo Bufan sneered in his heart. "After talking for a long time, you still want to take the credit." He added, "I want to announce a rule. Before the special medicine arrives here, no one is allowed to contact the patients in the isolation center." Sun Bowie said unhappily, "What are you talking about? Is it not the first time that you have used this medicine on a patient? Is it not an experiment?" Zhuo Bufan said with a cold face, "How can it be the same? This kind of special medicine is the result of scientific research. It is a product of science. It is 100% sure to treat this virus. It is different from your grassroots, wooden sticks, and rotten bark." Chapter 780. Although he said that, he was mainly afraid of Qin Haodong's medical skills. Qin Haodong could even cure the venom of the kite in an instant. Maybe he could really cure the virus. If that happened, he would lose all his credit. So he made up his mind that Qin Haodong must not be allowed to contact these patients. Sun Bowie said unhappily, "You're abusing your power. Since the Ministry of Health asked us Chinese medicine practitioners to join the expert group, we have the right to treat the patients." Zhuo Bufan sneered and said, "You'd better keep your Chinese medicine practitioners. What if those grassroots and tree barks that have never been scientifically tested caused the virus in the patients' bodies to mutate? Can you afford to take this responsibility?" Sun Bowie still wanted to say something, but Sun Fengqing stopped him with a look. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Well, since you're so confident, we won't participate. It's not easy for us to come here. Let's take it as a free trip and go out to have fun." After that, he did not argue anymore and directly walked out of the tent with Su Hui. Cathaway was not a member of the expert group, so she did not attend the meeting, nor did she eavesdrop on the conversation in the tent. She just sat at the door and waited quietly. When she saw Qin Haodong and the others coming out, she immediately went up to them. "Qin, how's your discussion going?" When will you use your magical medical skills to help these patients relieve their pain? Qin Haodong said, Zhuo Bufan is in charge of the treatment. He has developed a new treatment plan. If you have any questions, you can ask him. After that, he turned to Li Laozhen and said, Mr. Li, is there any fun place nearby? Li Laozhen said, go south from here and there is a Peacock Bay. The scenery there is good. There are mountains, rivers and waterfalls. We will also go there to play when we have a rest. Thank you, Mr. Li. Let's go there and have a look. After that, Qin Haodong took Su Hui's hand and walked south. Cathaway quickly caught up with him and said, Qin, what are you going to do? Your most important responsibility now is not to travel. You should treat those patients. Qin Haodong stopped and said to the persistent foreign girl, Miss Cathaway, I've already told you that Zhuo Bufan will be in charge of the treatment. A flash of confusion flashed across Cathaway's beautiful face. But why don't you do your best? It's not that I don't want to do my best, but I can't help. Qin Haodong said, Miss Cathaway, you still know too little about Huaxia. If you really find a boyfriend in Huaxia in the future, maybe you will understand what I mean. Where are you going now? Asked Cathaway. Didn't you hear it just now? We're going to Peacock Bay to play. Cathaway said excitedly, can you take me with you? I want to go with you. Qin Haodong glanced at her and asked, Miss Cathaway, who did you learn Huaxia language from? I've always been very interested in Huaxia. When I was in university, I took Huaxia as an elective. What do you think? Am I right? Qin Haodong didn't answer her. Instead, he asked, do you know what a light bulb means? That's too simple. Of course I know. Cathaway then pointed to the 200-watt incandescent lamp in front of the township government. That's the light bulb. Miss Cathaway, he's not the only third wheel. You are too. After that, Qin Haodong took Su Hui's hand and strode south, leaving a confused Cathaway. She didn't understand what she had to do with the third wheel. After being stunned for a while, she came to her senses and walked towards Zhuo Bufan, who had just walked out of the tent. Mr. Zhuo, I want to ask, when will you treat these patients? Miss Cathaway, don't worry. Today, you will definitely witness the miracle of us curing these patients. Cathaway asked, but I heard that there is no effective medicine to treat this virus at present. How are you going to treat these patients? Zhuo Bufan said proudly, I've already got the special medicine from the Scientific Research Institute of M country. As soon as the medicine is delivered, the disease will be cured immediately. When we cure these patients, I'll ask Miss Cathaway to let the whole world publicize us. Cathaway asked again, but I saw that Qin has already left. Won't he participate in your treatment this time? Zhuo Bufan said, he is a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. There is no good way to treat this virus, so we don't need him at all. Cathaway nodded again. She seemed to understand what Qin Haodong meant just now. Sun Fengqing and his grandson were sitting on a big rock in front of the township government. Grandpa, this kind of zombie-like disease is really weird. I've never heard of anyone who doesn't eat or drink and can still become stronger and stronger. Sun Fengqing still looked into the distance with a calm expression. You've never seen this kind of disease before. I've lived for so many years, but I've never seen this kind of disease. Then do you think Zhuo Bufan and the others can really cure these villagers? Sun Fengqing said, who knows? Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Sun Bowie said, I don't think they can. Sun Fengqing glanced at his grandson and asked, why? There's no reason. It's just a feeling. I don't think this disease will be so easy to cure. Sun Bowie said, if you and Dr. Qin take action, there may be a chance to cure them. They definitely can't cure them. It's a pity that Zhuo is narrow-minded. He's afraid that we'll take the credit, so he doesn't let us contact those patients at all. There are some things that don't need to be forced. It's predestined. Sun Fengqing did not look angry at all. He said leisurely, little Qin is really outstanding. He's the best doctor I've ever seen in my life. He's even better than me. Sun Bowie said, Grandpa, you're the king of medicine of Huaxia. Can't you compare with him? No. Sun Fengqing said firmly, I can't see through little Qin's medical skills. Based on what I've seen, he's much better than me. Remember, there's always someone better than you. The biggest taboo for us Chinese medicine practitioners is to be arrogant. You must learn more from little Qin in the future. I know, Grandpa. Sun Bowie was now convinced by Qin Haodong's medical skills. In the next day, Zhuo Bufan had been waiting anxiously and looked at the path into the village from time to time. In his opinion, this was a good opportunity for him to make a name for himself. As long as the special medicine arrived, he would be able to cure all the patients here. At that time, he would definitely gain both fame and fortune. Finally, near dusk, Wang Zhonglin, the deputy director of the Department of Sanity, appeared in his sight, followed by an assistant who was carrying a medicine box on his back. Director Wang, why did you come in person? Zhuo Bufan immediately greeted him. Wang Zhonglin said, this virus outbreak is a big deal. The higher-ups attach great importance to it. How can I not come? As he spoke, he took the medicine box from the assistant's hand and said, Professor Zhuo, these are the medicines flown from M country. I've brought them all for you. Zhuo Bufan took the medicine box excitedly and said, that's great. With these medicines, the patients in the village can be cured. Wang Zhonglin said, Professor Zhuo, are these medicines really effective in killing these viruses? Of course, this is a special medicine produced by M country. It's designed to kill this kind of zombie virus. Zhuo Bufan said proudly, if I hadn't worked in M country for a period of time, no one else would have known that there was such a special medicine. Wang Zhonglin praised him and said, an expert is indeed an expert. Professor Zhuo, you've made a great contribution this time. Zhuo Bufan said proudly, it's nothing. This is what I should do. Isn't there a saying that the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility? As the best expert professor in Huaxia, I naturally have the responsibility to do something for the people. After that, he said to Zhao Meng, who was next to him, immediately organize the members of our expert group and go to treat the patients now. Zhao Meng agreed and went to call them. Soon, Wang Aimin, Yi Liying, Dong Anna and the others were all called over, but Sun Fengqing and Sun Bowie were not called. Looking at these people in front of him, Wang Zhonglin said in surprise, Professor Zhuo, I remember that there are 10 people in our expert group. Why are there only 6 now? Zhuo Bufan said, Director Wang, to tell you the truth, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners didn't make any contribution to the work of the expert group this time, so there's no need to call them. Especially that little doctor surnamed Qin, he took his girlfriend out to play in the morning. It's useless to call him a doctor who doesn't care about the patients at all. Director Wang, you know the situation in Huaxia. Some people don't have any real skills at all. They come here to be gilded. Zhao Meng added. He was really thick-skinned. He was supposed to be gilded, but he insisted on putting the hat on Qin Haodong. As a man in the officialdom, Wang Zhonglin naturally understood what Zhuo Bufan meant. Of course, he would not offend the great expert in front of him for a few traditional Chinese medicine practitioners he had only met once. However, he secretly shook his head in his heart. Young people nowadays were really unreasonable. They had given up such a good opportunity. When the patients here were cured, Qin Haodong would probably not get any benefits at all. He had wasted such a good opportunity. While talking, they came to the front of the isolation room. In order to make his medicine work quickly, Zhuo Bufan deliberately chose a particularly strong infected person. With good physical fitness, his own recovery ability would naturally be good. In addition, with the special medicine in his hand, he would definitely be able to kill these viruses as soon as possible. The selected villager was called Zhang Dazhuang, and he was famous for his strength in the village. When Niu Erwa got sick that day, he was the first to go forward to stop him. He was accidentally scratched on the arm and eventually became infected. In order to prevent infection, Joie Buffon asked all the members of the expert team to put on protective clothing. Then he asked Li Laozhen to open the big lock on the door of the isolation room, and they walked in together. Wang Zhonglin and Cathaway were not medical staff, so they did not enter the isolation room. According to Joie Buffon's request, they waited outside to witness the moment of a miracle. After entering the room, Joie Buffon personally opened the medicine box and took out the special medicine inside. After making it, he slowly injected it into Zhang Dazhuang's arm. Zhao Meng held a camera and filmed at the side. According to Joie Buffon's request, he wanted to record the moment of meritorious service. Seeing that all the pink medicine was injected into Zhang Dazhuang's arm, everyone's eyes were focused on Zhang Dazhuang, waiting for the moment of success. The fever is gone, the fever is gone. 5 minutes later, Zhang Dazhuang, who had been in a state of high fever, finally went down. Guo said respectfully, "Professor Joie, your special medicine is really effective." Zhao Meng also said, "Of course, who is our director? He is the professor with the best medical skills in Huaxia." Joie Buffon secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and his face became more and more proud. It seemed that he had really succeeded this time. Chapter 781. All right, he's already awake. Director, your medicine is really amazing. It's really effective. While recording, Zhao Meng tried his best to flatter Joie Buffon. He did not notice the strange look in Zhang Dazhuang's eyes at all. On the other hand, after the incident with the kite and the leopard, Dong Anna seemed to have become extremely vigilant. She took 2 steps back to the door and said, "Why do I feel that something is wrong? What's wrong?" The fever has subsided, and he has woken up. As Zhao Meng spoke, he suddenly saw 2 big blood-red eyes appear on the phone screen. Zhang Dazhuang jumped out of bed. His limbs looked extremely stiff, his face was pale, and his eyes were bloodshot. He was no different from the zombies in the TV series. After Li Laozhen opened the door of the isolation room, he did not leave. He also wanted to see how these experts treated the disease. After seeing Zhang Dazhuang's reaction, he immediately shouted at the top of his lungs, "Run, Zhang Dazhuang is crazy." After that, he was the first to run out of the isolation room. After the incident with Niu Erwa, he was very clear about the situation of people going crazy after being infected with the virus. He was the first to run away, followed by Dong Anna. The others also reacted and ran out of the door quickly. This was also because they reacted in time and bought some time to escape. When they ran out, Zhang Dazhuang had completely entered a state of madness. He let out a strange roar and jumped to the door. Although his legs could not be bent, his speed was extremely fast. With a tap of his feet on the ground, he could jump 2 or 3 meters away. Cathaway and Wang Zhonglin were guarding outside the door. They did not know what was going on inside, especially Cathaway. She had already prepared the camera in her hand and was waiting for Joie Buffon to come out for a special interview after he cured the patient. But she did not expect that these people would come out too fast. Before she could react, they had already run dozens of meters away. When she saw Zhang Dazhuang following closely behind, she understood what was going on. This time, not only did the treatment not succeed, but it also made the infected person enter a state of madness in advance. Cathaway's reaction was not slow. She threw down the camera and ran away, but Zhang Dazhuang, who was crazy, was too fast. After jumping a few times, he came behind her and reached out to grab her neck. He ground his white teeth so hard that they were chattering, and his eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty light. Even though Cathaway had seen a lot over the years, she had never seen such a terrifying situation. She was so scared that she let out a scream and even closed her eyes, not daring to see what would happen next. The other people around were also scared silly, especially Wang Zhonglin. The person in front of him was a reporter from Eye of the Earth. If anything happened to him in Huaxia, the higher-ups would definitely hold him accountable. At this time, he wanted to strangle Joie Buffon to death. What was this bullshit expert doing? Not only did he not cure the patient, but he also made the patient crazy in advance. At this critical moment, Cathaway suddenly felt her waist being wrapped around by a powerful arm. Her body retreated at high speed, and Zhang Dazhuang's two big hands with black hair caught nothing. After escaping death, Cathaway opened her eyes and saw a handsome face behind her. It was Qin Haodong who was back. Qin Haodong also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he came back in time. Zhang Dazhuang failed to catch Cathaway. The red light in his eyes flashed, and he jumped towards Qin Haodong and Zhuo Bufan again. At this time, Li Laozhen had already gathered more than a dozen villagers. He held a rope in his hand and shouted to the people next to him, "Everyone, hurry up and tie Zhang Dazhuang up." 5 days ago, when Niu Erhua went crazy, everyone used this method to subdue him. This chapter is not over. Please turn the page. But it was different now. At that time, everyone did not know how terrible this virus was, so they rushed forward. Now the injured villagers were all lying in the isolation room, and their lives were uncertain. Everyone knew very well that as long as they were scratched by the monster in front of them, they would be crippled. Therefore, even though Li Laozhen shouted happily, none of the villagers dared to pounce on him. Seeing this situation, Qin Haodong protected Cathaway behind him and shouted to Li Laozhen, "Throw the rope over here." If this was a real zombie, it would be very easy to deal with it. As long as he took out the Xianyuan sword, he could cut her in half. Unfortunately, this was a villager infected with the virus, so he could not kill her. Li Laozhen reacted quickly. When he heard the shout, he directly threw the rope in his hand over. Qin Haodong reached back and caught the rope. At this time, Zhang Dazhuang happened to be in front of him. He raised his leg and kicked Zhang Dazhuang in the chest, directly knocking him to the ground. He released an invisible force to press Zhang Dazhuang to the ground, making him unable to move at all. Then the rope in his hand flew out as if it was alive and began to quickly wrap around Zhang Dazhuang's body. In the blink of an eye, it was tightly tied up. Although Zhang Dazhuang kept roaring and his eyes flashed with red light, he was tied up by the rope and his ability to move was limited. He could only be thrown back into the isolation room by Qin Haodong. Li Laozhen took the big lock next to him and locked the door of the isolation room again. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Dr. Qin." Cathaway was the first to come to Qin Haodong's side. She looked at him with stars in her eyes. If it hadn't been for this Huaxia man, she might have become this kind of zombie-like monster. Therefore, she was full of gratitude to Qin Haodong. At the same time, she also had an inexplicable feeling in her heart. It seemed that it was not an accident that the hero saved the beauty and then got her back. Women were born with a kind of hero worship complex. If this kind of complex was coupled with the gratitude after being saved, it would become a hot love as long as it was slightly catalyzed. Qin Haodong just nodded with a smile and did not say much, which made Cathaway a little disappointed. "Thank you, Dr. Qin. Thank you so much." The second person to run over to thank him was Wang Zhonglin. He was the highest-ranking administrative official present. If today's matter became serious, he would be the most responsible. He might not be able to keep the hat that he had endured for so many years. Therefore, he was the most worried just now. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, Qin Haodong appeared in time and subdued the crazy Zhang Dazhuang. "It doesn't matter. It's nothing." Qin Haodong asked doubtfully, "Director Wang, what the hell is going on? Why did the patient suddenly go crazy and rush out of the isolation room?" Wang Zhonglin turned around and asked Zhuo Bufan, who was hiding aside, "Mr. Zhuo, it's time for you to give us an explanation. Didn't you say that this medicine is absolutely effective? Why didn't it cure the virus of the infected people? On the contrary, it made them go crazy in advance. What the hell is going on?" According to the calculation of the time when Niu Erhua went crazy, it would take at least 1 day for these villagers to enter the second stage of the disease. Today, Zhang Dazhuang must have been stimulated by the medicinal liquid injected by Zhuo Bufan and went crazy in advance. Zhuo Bufan said with sweat all over his head, I don't know what's going on. This medicine should be effective. After causing such a big trouble, he was no longer as proud and high-spirited as he had been just now. The lackeys next to him also hid far away from him, as if they were afraid of being involved in the responsibility. Wang Zhonglin said in a cold voice, Mr. Zhuo, I will report what happened here truthfully and ask the Ministry of Health to set up a new team of experts. After he said that, several members of the expert group became excited. This chapter is not over. Please turn the page. If they were really sent back to the Ministry of Health by Wang Zhonglin, not only would they not get any credit, but they would also be severely punished. Guo Tao, Zhao Meng, Dong Anna, and the others were even more regretful. They had been living well in the capital. Why did they have to come here? Now, instead of being gilded, they were covered in sh*t. Zhuo Bufan's lips moved a few times, but he did not say a word. Today's trouble was caused by him. If it was really reported to the Ministry of Health, he would be the one to bear the greatest responsibility. He was afraid that the contract he had just received would be terminated. At this moment, Qin Haodong said, Director Wang, in fact, there's no need to do this. Our team is good. Although we haven't been able to cure this virus for the time being, it's only Western medicine that has failed. We Chinese medicine practitioners haven't treated it yet. Sun Bowie also said, Yes, Director Wang, some people don't let us Chinese medicine practitioners contact these patients at all in order to seize the credit. If we treat them, the result may be different. At the meeting this morning, Dr. Qin mentioned that this kind of special medicine that has not been tested in clinical practice was not reliable at all, but Director Zhuo didn't listen and forbade us Chinese medicine practitioners from contacting these patients. He said that he was afraid that our Chinese medicine practitioners would mess up the virus in the patients and cause the virus to mutate. As a result, we didn't do anything, but they mutated the virus themselves. Wang Zhonglin looked at Zhuo Bufan sharply and asked, Mr. Zhuo, is that true? After being exposed in public, Zhuo Bufan felt that his face was burning, as if he had been slapped dozens of times. He couldn't answer this question, so he could only lower his head deeply and almost put his head in his pants. Qin Haodong said to Wang Zhonglin, Director Wang, there are 4 Chinese medicine practitioners in the expert group set up by the Ministry of Health this time, which shows that the Ministry of Health attaches great importance to us. Please give us another day. If we can't come up with an effective treatment plan within 1 day, you can report it to the higher-ups. Is that okay? Okay, Dr. Qin, I'll listen to you. If there is no effective treatment plan by this time tomorrow, I will apply for a new expert group. Wang Zhonglin agreed directly. On the one hand, he felt that what Qin Haodong said made sense, and on the other hand, he was grateful for Qin Haodong's help just now. After getting his consent, Qin Haodong said to Li Laozhen, Mr. Li, open the door of the isolation room now. I'll go in and feel the patient's pulse. Although he could see the general condition of these people through the qi observation skill from outside, this time it was a matter of great importance, so it was more accurate to observe the patient at a close distance. Li Laozhen said, Dr. Qin, which one do you want to see first? Qin Haodong said, Niu Erwa's condition is the most serious. Open his isolation room first. I want to go in and have a look. Li Laozhen said worriedly, Dr. Qin, can you do it? Although this guy is tied up, he is very manic. Don't worry, I'm here. He'll be fine. Li Laozhen thought of the scene where Qin Haodong had just subdued Zhang Dazhuang, so he did not say anything more. He took out the key and opened the door of Niu Erwa's room. Just as Qin Haodong was about to go in, Sun Fengqing said, Dr. Qin, count me in. Maybe I can help you. Qin Haodong frowned slightly and said, Mr. Li, it's very dangerous here. Why don't I come alone? He had the protective aura formed by greenwood genuine qi, which could prevent all kinds of virus infection. It was more effective than the anti-chemical suit. Sun Fengqing was just an ordinary person. If he met the manic Nyo Erwa, he might really be infected with the virus. Sun Fengqing smiled indifferently and said, Dr. Qin is not afraid, so why should I be afraid? If I can't even do this, why should I be a doctor? End of this chapter. Chapter 782. Hearing this, Qin Haodong nodded secretly. This old man was indeed the successor of the king of medicine. He did have the demeanor of a doctor. The others also secretly admired him. The character of the two Chinese medicine practitioners in front of them had conquered everyone. Compared with Zhuo Bufan, a dirty person, he seemed too small. Qin Haodong said, Well, old master's son, let's go in together. Yi Liying said, You too, for the sake of safety, you'd better put on protective suits. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, I don't need them. Sun Fengqing said, This disease has been confirmed to be transmitted through the blood. There's no need to be so nervous. I don't need to wear them either. After that, the two of them opened the door of the isolation room and walked in. It was strange that Nyo Erwa, who was originally restless, felt a little scared when he saw Qin Haodong. He slowly retreated and hid in the corner. Qin Haodong grabbed the rope on his body, lifted him up and threw him on the bed. Although Nyo Erwa was violent, he instinctively felt the powerful aura on Qin Haodong. He still did not dare to move and lay on the bed obediently, like a wooden stake. Qin Haodong and Sun Fengqing began to feel Nyo Erwa's pulse on both sides. After a while, they exchanged wrists and felt the pulse again. 5 minutes later, the two of them looked at each other and seemed to have learned something. After that, they left the isolation room and asked Li Laozhen to lock it again. Then they opened Zhang Dazhuang's isolation room. About half an hour later, they checked on all the patients in the 7 isolation rooms and then retreated. It was late at night, but the two of them did not return to the tent. Instead, they went to a big stone in front of the village and sat down. Qin Haodong took the lead and said, Old master, what do you think of these people's conditions? Are you testing this old man? Sun Fengqing smiled and said, We Chinese medicine practitioners don't talk about viruses. Judging from the pulse just now, these people are all invaded by external evil. Nyo Erwa's condition has finally reached the point of no cure. Next is Zhang Dazhuang, who is also invaded by external evil. I can't do anything about these two people. Qin Haodong nodded and said, Mr. Sun is right. These people are all invaded by external evil, which is what Western medicine calls a virus. Zhang Dazhuang was the first to be infected with the virus, which has already penetrated deep into his bone marrow. This kind of virus can not only make people behave like zombies, but also greatly stimulate people's potential. That's why they are so powerful without eating or drinking for many days. Excessive stimulation of the human body's potential will consume people's vitality. According to the current situation, they can live for 10 days at most. Zhang Dazhuang's condition is somewhat better, but he has entered the second stage of the virus outbreak, and there is no cure. Sun Fengqing sighed and said, It's all Zhuo Bufan's fault for being arrogant and greedy. That's why Zhang Dazhuang was harmed. Otherwise, he would have had a chance to be saved. Haodong of Qin of said, Master. Sun Fengqing said, The others have not been infected for a long time, and the poison is not deep. If the medicine is appropriate, there is still a chance to cure them. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. It seemed that the king of medicine's reputation was not just for show. Sun Fengqing said, Little Qin, you don't have to keep me guessing. I don't believe that you can't see this. Qin Haodong said with a smile, Mr. Sun is right. Except for Nyo Erwa and Zhang Dazhuang, the others are not deeply poisoned. If we use the prescription to strengthen the body and get rid of evil and purify the blood, we can really cure them. Sun Fengqing said, It seems that we have the same idea. Let's each write a prescription and then compare it, okay? Okay. After that, Qin Haodong went back to the tent and took a pen and paper. Everyone wrote down their own prescriptions. Sun Fengqing put down the pen, took his prescription and said, let's look at this first. This is a prescription left by my ancestors. It is specially used to treat this kind of disease. Qin Haodong looked at the prescription and saw that it was written, Angelica Dehurica 3G, Angelica 5G, Shuanghua 6G. He thought about it for a while and said, Master, your prescription is really good. If we take the medicine according to this prescription, we can really cure these people's diseases after 7 days. Sun Fengqing said, Little Qin is really amazing. You can even see the effect time of my prescription. Qin Haodong said, Old Master, your prescription is really unique. It's a pity that Director Wang only gave us 1 day. It's too late to use your prescription. Sun Fengqing said, It seems that Little Qin has a well-thought-out plan. Your prescription must have a miraculous effect, right? Although he said so, in fact, he was still a little dissatisfied in his heart. After all, the prescription in his hand was an ancient prescription passed down by his ancestor, the king of medicine, Sun Simiao. It was hard to believe that someone's prescription was better than his. My prescription is called the Sanbao blood cleansing pill. Please help me, master. As Qin Haodong spoke, he handed the prescription in his hand to Sun Fengqing. Sun Fengqing took the prescription and thought about it for a full 10 minutes. Then he said with admiration, Little Qin, I'm convinced. Your prescription is indeed much better than mine. But in my opinion, I'm afraid it will take 3 days to see the effect. 1 day is not enough. Qin Haodong said with a smile, Master, you underestimate my prescription. My Sanbao blood cleansing pill can cure the patient in only half an hour. Sun Fengqing said, That's impossible. Although your prescription is really exquisite, it will take at least 3 days to see the effect. Master, you don't know. Do you know why my prescription is called the Sanbao blood cleansing pill? Sun Fengqing said doubtfully, According to your prescription, more than a dozen medicinal materials have their own uses. I can't see the meaning of the 3 treasures. Qin Haodong said, The 3 main ingredients in my prescription are ginseng, fleece flower, and Panax noto ginseng. If you want to refine the real Sanbao blood cleansing pill, these 3 main ingredients need to be more than 1,000 years old. Only then can they be called the 3 treasures, and the effect will be more than 10 times better. Little Qin, are you kidding? Nowadays, medicinal materials that are 100 years old are extremely rare. How can you find one that is 1,000 years old? Besides, you need 3 of them at once. Qin Haodong said with a smile, Master, I happen to have them in my hand, so I dare to say that these villagers will be cured within half an hour. The medicinal materials in his hand were all collected from Chio's medicine garden. They were all more than 5,000 years old, but he didn't dare to tell Sun Fengqing, for fear of scaring the old man. In fact, there was one thing he didn't say, that was, the Sanbao blood cleansing pill had to be refined with the method of cultivation in order to achieve the best effect. Only in this way could the infected villagers be cured within half an hour. Oh my God, medicinal materials that are more than 1,000 years old. Little Qin, you really surprised me. After the shock, Sun Fengqing looked at Qin Haodong with awe in his eyes. It should be known that medicinal materials that were more than 100 years old were worth more than millions of yuan, let alone medicinal materials that were more than 1,000 years old. It could be seen that he was noble to take out his treasured medicinal materials to treat the villagers. Qin Haodong said, Master, it's just some medicinal materials. They are not as precious as human lives. It's nothing. The heart of a doctor, this is the real heart of a doctor. After sighing, Sun Fengqing seemed to have something to say, but he was too embarrassed to say it. Qin Haodong said, Master, if you have anything to say, just say it. Sun Fengqing smiled a little awkwardly and said, Little Qin, your prescription of the Sanbao blood cleansing pill is much better than the one in my hand even without the medicinal materials that are more than 1,000 years old as the main medicine. I just don't know if I can give it to others. If I can, I'm willing to pay for it. Qin Haodong smiled. It turned out that the old man had taken a fancy to his prescription. Mr. Sun, since you like this prescription, you can take it. Seeing that Qin Haodong readily agreed, Sun Fengqing was overjoyed. Such an ancient prescription was absolutely hard to get. Little Qin, how much do you think this prescription costs? I'll transfer it to you now. Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, Master, this is something that can cure diseases and save people. Don't mention money. I believe you can save more people in your hands. Just take it. Seeing Qin Haodong's straightforwardness, Sun Fengqing didn't hesitate. Dr. Qin, thank you. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. I'm willing to die for you. Qin Haodong said, Mr. Sun, go back and have a rest. I want to find a quiet place to refine medicine so that I can cure these villagers as soon as possible. Sun Fengqing said, can't you do it in our tent? At most, we can let others go out. My method of refining medicine is a little special. It needs absolute silence. Qin Haodong did not dare to refine medicine in the tent. He was afraid that as soon as he took out the Shenong tripod, others would be scared. After saying goodbye to Sun Fengqing, he walked to a cave not far away. He had observed this place during the day. The cave was not very big, but it was enough for refining medicine. Moreover, it was dry and ventilated, and it was clean. He set up a restriction outside the cave, took out the Shenong tripod, and began to refine the Sanbao blood-cleansing pill. It was late at night, and the others in the tent had nothing to do. They had all fallen asleep. At this time, two figures came out of the two tents and quietly gathered together. It was Dong Anna and Zhao Meng. After the incident with the kite, Dong Anna ignored Zhao Meng, but now she saw that Guo Tao's butt was injured. Although it was not a serious injury, it was definitely not possible for him to do that kind of thing. In the entire expert group, there was no suitable person to seduce except Zhao Meng. She could not bear the loneliness, so she could only send a text message to Zhao Meng and ask him out to meet. Zhao Meng was also extremely lecherous. Since Dong Anna asked him out, he naturally couldn't wait. He immediately ran out of the tent. First, he held Dong Anna in his arms, kissed her hard, and then said, "Where are we going?" Dong Anna thought for a moment. After the leopard incident, she did not dare to go to the foot of the mountain. If she attracted other fierce beasts, it would be a small matter to lose face, but it would be over if she lost her life. Let's go there. It's safe there. As she spoke, she pointed to a warehouse next to the township government. There were originally 8 rooms in the township government of Wangshan village. Now 7 of them had been turned into isolation rooms, and the last one had been turned into a warehouse. Some of the original office tools were all piled up here. During the day, Dong Anna had already paid attention to it. Seeing that it was the most suitable place to be used as a sex room, she pulled Zhao Meng over. The two of them entered the warehouse and secretly closed the door. As if they had been hungry and thirsty for many years, they began to desperately take off each other's clothes. Soon, they had sex. After a few minutes, Zhao Meng felt that something was wrong and said, "Anna, your period hasn't left yet. It's not appropriate, is it?" Dong Anna was charming. She panted and said, "Hurry up, don't stop." "I'm not afraid." "What are you afraid of?" "It's not a big deal for a man to run a red light." Chapter 783. Since Niu Erwa had seen Qin Haodong's pressure, he seemed to have become much more obedient. He leaned against the corner of the wall like a wooden stake and closed his eyes, as if he had fallen asleep. But all of a sudden, he suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with red light and he let out a strange roar. Zhang Dazhuang, who was next door, also reacted. His eyes flashed with red light and his expression became more and more violent. He hit his head against the steel guardrail in front of him. Hearing the roars of the two people, the people in the tent did not care. After all, this kind of situation had happened before, and it would be stabilized after a while. Moreover, the two of them were locked in a solid stone house, and the windows were reinforced with steel bars, so they could not run out at all. Li Laojian turned over and muttered, "Damn you, Nyo Erwa. Can't you let me sleep?" Hearing the sound next door, Zhao Meng said worriedly, "Nana, what's wrong with these two guys? Why are they shouting so scary? Why don't we just give up? It's really a bit scary. Useless things. What are you afraid of? The stone house is so thick. What can they do even if they shout until their throats are broken?" Dong Anna and Guo Tao did not finish last time, so they were in a dilemma. Now she was still itching, so she naturally did not want to give up halfway. Oh. Zhao Meng thought for a moment and felt that Dong Anna was right. These days, Nyo Erwa often went crazy, but he would be fine after a while. Thinking of this, he began to move again. But this time, it was different from the past. Both Nyo Erwa and Zhang Dazhuang keenly felt that the smell of blood emanating from Dong Anna's body did not calm down. On the contrary, it became more and more violent. Zhang Dazhuang struggled desperately to get rid of the ropes on his body. Unfortunately, he had just entered the state of madness for a short time, so he could not get rid of these ropes yet. But Nyo Erwa was different. He had already entered the second stage for 3 days. Under the situation of burning his vitality, his physical strength was growing every day. Usually, it would be better, but now the strong smell of blood constantly stimulated him, which made his expression become more and more violent. He suddenly exerted force with his arms, and with a bang, the ropes on his body broke inch by inch. The two people in the next room were twisting their bodies crazily and entering the critical stage of the final sprint. Moreover, they also felt that the stone house was strong. Although the two people next to them were shouting fiercely, they did not care. At the same time, under the cover of their cries, Dong Anna also opened her throat and shouted more and more happily. Zhao Meng moved faster and faster. At the last moment, there was a loud bang from the wall behind him. Then, with a crash, countless stones splashed out, and a huge head came out of the wall. It was Nyo Erwa, whose eyes were blood red. Oh my God. The two of them were scared out of their wits. They never dreamed that Nyo Erwa, who was in a state of madness, would directly break through the hard stone wall and break out of the stone house. Run! Zhao Meng once again displayed his selfishness. He picked up his pants and rushed out of the warehouse. Dong Anna was not slow and followed closely behind. After Nyo Erwa's head came out of the stone wall, he waved his hands, and a big hole appeared in the whole stone wall. He jumped out of the hole and chased after Dong Anna. Help, help! Compared with the leopard last time, Nyo Erwa was more ferocious and terrifying this time. Moreover, he was faster. With a bounce of his legs on the ground, he could run 6 or 7 meters away. After the two of them escaped, they saw that Nyo Erwa was chasing after them. They had no way to escape, so they could only run back to their tents. At this time, the people in the 2 tents also heard the sound of the stone wall collapsing, and they all sat up. Zhao Meng and Dong Anna ran away separately. Nyo Erwa was stimulated by the smell of blood. He ignored Zhao Meng and chased after Dong Anna. When he came to the tent, he reached out and tore the entire tent apart. In the tent, Su Hui, Cathaway, and Yi Liying had already woken up. When they saw Dong Anna rushing in, they were stunned at first. Then they saw Nyo Erwa's blood-red eyes and immediately understood what had happened. Nyo Erwa did not give anyone time to react at all. He rushed into the tent and reached out to grab Yi Liying. Yi Liying was just a researcher. She could see Nyo Erwa through the cage, but once she faced him face to face, she was immediately scared out of her wits and stood there in a daze. Fortunately, Su Hui reacted quickly. She grabbed her collar and pulled her over, so Nyo Erwa missed. Roar! Nyo Erwa did not continue to chase after Yi Liying. His only target was Dong Anna, who was full of blood. There were 4 beds in the room. Su Hui and Yi Liying slept on one side, while Dong Anna and Cathaway slept on the other. Seeing that there was nowhere to escape, Dong Anna hid behind Cathaway. Nyo Erwa roared again and reached out to grab Cathaway's neck. Cathaway did not panic too much. She reached out to grab the backpack next to her and stood in front of Lu Erwa. Although it had a certain blocking effect, Nyo Erwa's strength was too great, and the backpack could not completely stop him. His sharp claws scratched a bloody mark on Cathaway's arm. Cathaway let out a scream. At this moment, Nyo Erwa's other hand reached for her chest. After entering the state of madness, Nyo Erwa's body was harder than steel, and he was extremely powerful. This claw was enough to pierce through Cathaway's chest. Seeing this scene, Su Hui instinctively shouted, "Haodong, come here. Don't panic. I'm coming." Qin Haodong shouted, came in from the other side of the tent, and slapped Nyo Erwa in the face. Although Lu Erwa was very strong, he could not be compared with Qin Haodong at all. He was slapped out of the tent like a cannonball and fell more than 10 meters away. Qin Haodong did not expect that such a big thing would happen while he was refining medicine. He asked Su Hui with concern, "How are you? Are you okay?" Su Hui's face was pale, and she was obviously scared. She shook her head and said, "I'm fine. Maybe Cathaway is injured." Qin Haodong looked in the direction of her finger and saw that Cathaway was wearing a black nightdress, which was in sharp contrast with her fair skin. Her chest arched in an exaggerated arc, and the two exposed hemispheres were particularly eye-catching. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The important thing was that there was a long wound on her left arm, and it was bleeding. At this time, Nyo Erwa, who had been kicked out, roared again and then jumped up from the ground. "Don't worry. I'll deal with it for you later," Qin Haodong said as he jumped out. Now he had to get rid of Nyo Erwa first. Nyo Erwa's body was extremely strong after going mad, and Qin Haodong did not kill him, so he was not seriously injured. He jumped up from the ground and went straight to Sun Fengqing next to him. Sun Bowie was holding a wooden stick in his hand. Seeing that Nyo Erwa was pouncing on his grandfather, he quickly stood in front of Sun Fengqing and waved the wooden stick in his hand to smash it. But Nyo Erwa's body was harder than steel. How could he care about a wooden stick? He raised his left arm and broke the wooden stick into 2 pieces. Then he grabbed Sun Bowie's neck with both hands, opened his mouth, and bit his carotid artery. Sun Bowie struggled desperately, but his strength was useless in front of Nyo Erwa, who had gone mad. At this moment, a piece of red silk flew over, wrapped around Nyo Erwa's neck, and pulled him back. This piece of red silk used to be the weapon used by Bai Rui of the Hahuan sect. It was called red dust. It was made of the silk of the western region and was extremely tough. At that time, Qin Haodong used the Xian Yuan sword to cut the red dust into 2 pieces. Later, he felt that it was good and might be useful, so he put it in the storage ring and took it out. He moved his wrist very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, Nyo Erwa was firmly tied up again. Nyo Erwa's eyes flashed with red light, and he kept roaring. But the red dust was extremely tough. Even if he was 10 times stronger, he could not break free. In case anything happened, Qin Haodong asked Li Laozhen to open the door of Zhang Dazhuang's isolation room, and then tied him up with the other half of the red dust. The stone room where Nyo Erwa was located could no longer be used, so Qin Haodong simply locked him in the same room as Zhang Dazhuang. After dealing with these things, he returned to the yard. Wang Zhonglin stood there with a livid face. He had seen clearly what had happened just now. It was different from what had happened during the day. This time, Nyo Erwa had scratched 2 people in succession. They were in big trouble. One of them was a reporter from the Eye of the Earth. How could he explain it to his superiors? The only thing he was glad about was that there was a master like Qin Haodong here. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although his heart was heavy, he still had to do what he had to do. He said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, thank you so much. Without you, I wouldn't have dared to think about it. Director Wang, don't stand on ceremony at this time. Hurry up and see the wounded. After that, he gathered everyone in the yard and asked, who was injured? Dr. Qin, my neck was scratched. Sun Bowie came out. Although Qin Haodong had saved him in time, his neck had still been scratched by Nyo Erwa's sharp hands. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt dizzy. Then, he fell to the ground with a plop and fainted. Li Laozhen cried, "Oh no, Dr. Sun has been infected." The people who were scratched by Nyo Erwa were like this. They were unconscious at first, and then they had a fever and convulsions. Seeing that his grandson had fainted, Sun Fengqing suddenly panicked. He squatted down and began to feel Sun Bowie's pulse. His expression became more and more serious. Indeed, Sun Bowie was also infected with the virus. Qin Haodong came over and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Sunday. I've already refined the medicine." With that, he opened Sun Bowie's mouth and put a small dark red pill into it. Sun Fengqing was no longer as calm as he used to be when it came to his grandson's life. He asked eagerly, "Dr. Qin, will this medicine really work?" Qin Haodong said, "Don't worry, Mr. Sunday. I'll return you a healthy grandson in half an hour." Hearing the conversation between the two of them, Wang Zhonglin asked in surprise, "Dr. Qin, have you developed a medicine that can cure this virus?" Qin Haodong nodded and said, "That's right. This medicine is a pure Chinese medicine preparation called the Sanbao blood cleansing pill. It has a special effect on treating this kind of virus infection. As long as you take one before you enter the state of madness, you will be cured in half an hour." "That's great. Hurry up and give it to Cathaway," Wang Zhonglin said anxiously. In contrast, he was more concerned about Cathaway's safety. If this big reporter from the Eye of the Earth really died here, his position as the director would be over. Qin Haodong nodded and turned to look at Cathaway. But he was surprised to find that Cathaway was standing there intact. She was so graceful that she did not faint at all. Logically speaking, she had been scratched by Nyo Erwa first, so she should have had an attack earlier than Sun Bowie. But now there was no sign of an attack. Chapter 784. Qin, your huaxia kung fu just now was so cool. I really admire you. Seeing that Qin Haodong was staring at her, Cathaway walked over. At this time, the wound on her shoulder had been simply bandaged by Yi Liying. Qin Haodong asked, "Cathaway, do you feel anything special now? For example, dizziness or other discomfort?" "No, I feel very good now. You saved me twice in a row. I'm very excited." Qin Haodong frowned. It was really strange. Could it be that because of the different physiques, the onset of the disease was different between the two people? But it had been 4 or 5 minutes since Sun Bowie fainted. Even if there was a delay, it should be almost the same. "Cathaway, let me feel your pulse and see if you have been infected by the virus." As he spoke, he took Cathaway's hand and put 2 fingers on her pulse. After 2 or 3 minutes, he took back his hand. It was really strange. Sun Bowie was immediately infected by the virus after being touched, but Cathaway's pulse was very stable and there was no sign of infection. At this time, Sun Fengqing also came over and felt Cathaway's pulse. The result was that she was not infected. He frowned and said, "What's going on? Is it possible that the infection of this virus has something to do with gender? It only infects men and not women?" Then he shook his head. This statement was obviously not valid. After all, Zhang area was still lying in the isolation room. The two of them discussed for a long time and exchanged opinions, but neither of them could find the reason why Cathaway was not infected. Since he couldn't figure it out, Qin Haodong simply stopped thinking about it. He turned around and said, "What happened just now? Why did Nyo Erwa suddenly go crazy?" Su Hui said, "We're already asleep. We don't know what happened. At first, we heard Nyo Erwa and Zhang Dazhuang roaring, and then they chased after Dong Anna." Li Laozhen said, "We also heard Nyo Erwa's roar at the beginning. I thought it was the same as before, but he went crazy this time. Later, he made a lot of noise, and then Zhao Meng ran back from outside. Hearing his name being called, Zhao Meng lowered his head and wished he could find a place to hide. On the contrary, Dong Anna was relaxed and didn't care at all. Seeing their expressions, Qin Haodong asked with a cold face, "What did you two do? Why is Niu Erwa so mad?" Zhao Meng lowered his head and said, "No, nothing to do. This has nothing to do with us." Qin Haodong said, "Nothing?" The two of you ran out together in the middle of the night, and then Niu Erwa and Zhang Dazhuang went crazy together. Don't tell me it has nothing to do with you. Dong Anna said, "To tell you the truth, we just went out to have sex." So what? Don't tell me that a one-night stand will make the patient sick. Before Qin Haodong could speak, Cathaway couldn't help saying, "How can you do this? You just got a leopard a few days ago, and now you're going out to have sex. Can't you stop for a bit?" Dong Anna glared at him. "So what if I want to have sex with you? What does it have to do with you? Don't think that I can't tell that you've taken a fancy to this pretty boy. If you have the ability, go out with him." Seeing her unreasonable look, Cathaway was so angry that her face turned red. "How can you be like this? Are you being unreasonable?" Su Hui said, "Dong Anna, it's because of your nonsense that Cathaway and Sun Bowie were injured this time. Don't you feel guilty at all?" Dong Anna said angrily, "I don't understand. I just want to have sex with you. Why are you so angry? What does that guy's madness have to do with us?" Speaking of this, she seemed to want to continue. She continued to shout, "You have to understand that the first victim is us." At that time, that guy directly broke the wall. We were next door and almost died in their hands. Why don't you sympathize with me at all? Hearing this, Qin Haodong's expression suddenly changed. "Are you next door to Niu Erwa?" Dong Anna knew that Qin Haodong didn't like her and had lost the intention to seduce him. She said straightforwardly, "Nonsense. Except for the 2 tents, there is only one empty house. Where else can we go? Are we going to the foot of the mountain to attract the leopard?" As soon as she finished speaking, Qin Haodong raised his hand and slapped her in the face. Although he did not use his true power in this slap, it was still very heavy. It directly sent Dong Anna flying 3 or 4 meters away. The people around were all shocked. They didn't expect that Qin Haodong would be so angry and hit her. Dong Anna got up from the ground and shouted with disheveled hair, "Qin, do you think you are great just because you are rich? Why did you hit me? *tch, how dare you say that it wasn't you who did it this time? You're already on your period, but you're still restless. How dare you go to the next room next to Niu Erwa to have sex with him? Haven't you heard that this kind of patient will go crazy when he smells blood?" Qin Haodong was furious. If he hadn't come back in time, everyone present would have died in the hands of Niu Erwa. After hearing what he said, the others suddenly realized why Niu Erwa and Zhang Dazhuang had suddenly gone crazy. It turned out that it was all because of Dong Anna. Wang Zhonglin couldn't stand it anymore. Because of this woman's nonsense, not only did she almost lose her official position, but she also put his life on the line just now. He said coldly, "Dong Anna, it's too outrageous. Are you here to help or to have sex with him? I will report these things truthfully." "That's right. It's too outrageous. You're a disgrace to our expert group. It's not good to have sex with him anywhere, but he came here to have sex with him. He almost killed everyone." The others also condemned him. After all, what had happened just now concerned everyone. If Qin Haodong hadn't come back in time, they would have been infected by the virus and might have been killed by Niu Erwa on the spot. Dong Anna cried, "Can you blame me? I didn't know that it would make Niu Erwa crazy." She really didn't know about this. Li Lao Zhen had mentioned it that day, but she had been thinking about who to seduce at night and didn't hear it at all. "I don't know. Is that the reason?" Qin Haodong was obviously still angry. You came here to be gilded, so you should stay here obediently. When you finish the task here, you will be rewarded when you go back. But look at you. What have you done these days? How much trouble have you caused? Seeing that she was pointed out in public, Dong Anna immediately shouted unhappily, Qin Haodong, what right do you have to say that about me? Who are you calling gilded? I think you're still gilded. If you're so capable, why don't you cure these patients? Qin Haodong's words suddenly poked the lungs of several people. Zhao Meng also said, that's right. If you have the ability, why don't you cure these patients? We're all experts. Since you don't have the ability, what right do you have to say that we're gilded? His words were full of confidence. Although Qin Haodong had cured Dong Anna's snake venom before, if there was a serum, Western medicine could also cure it. In his eyes, this did not mean that the medical level was very high. Even the latest medicine that Zhuo Bufan got had no effect on the zombie virus in front of him. He didn't believe that he could come up with an effective way in such a short time. Dong Anna, you shameless B***tch. You're ungrateful. Have you forgotten who saved you when you went up the mountain? And you, Zhao Meng. I couldn't find you during the treatment, but you made such a big mess at night and almost killed everyone. How dare you stand here and shout? Hearing someone poking their lungs, Dong Anna and Zhao Meng turned around together. They were about to fight back, but they both stood there in a daze. It turned out that the person who spoke was Sun Bowie, who had just been infected by the virus. Zhao Meng. He licked his dry lips and stammered, you're cured? Of course. Do you think the Sanbao blood cleansing pill developed by the medical sage is a joke? One pill completely cured me of the virus. Although Sun Bowie had just fallen into a coma, he was sober and could hear everything that was happening around him clearly. How is this possible? Not only Zhao Meng and Dong Anna were dumbfounded, but even Zhuo Bufan and the others stood there in a daze. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Sun Bowie survived the disaster and was in high spirits. He shouted proudly, now you know who's gilded, don't you? How dare you insult the medical sage? I really don't know who gave you the courage. Who gave you the face? I've said that what you Western medicine can't do doesn't mean that we Chinese medicine can't do. Now you've seen the level of the medical sage. In just one night, he found a way to cure the virus. Seeing Sun Bowie glancing at Zhao Meng and the others, Wang Zhonglin's blood surged. Oh my God, he's cured. He's really cured. We've found an effective medicine. Ignoring his identity as the director, he jumped up from the ground and hugged Qin Haodong excitedly. Dr. Qin, thank you so much. You've made a great contribution to our country. Seeing that Qin Haodong had saved Sun Bowie, except for Zhuo Bufan and the others, everyone else cheered excitedly. Although Cathaway was not from Huaxia, she was still very excited. She rushed over and hugged Qin Haodong, kissing him on both sides of his cheeks. Qin, you're so amazing. I want to spread your deeds all over the world and let everyone know the power of Chinese medicine and your excellence. Qin Haodong wiped his cheeks and said awkwardly to Su Hui, don't mind me. This is the etiquette of the West. It's the same for everyone. No, Qin, I really like you. As she spoke, Cathaway kissed Qin Haodong on the mouth again. After everyone cheered, Wang Zhonglin came over and said, Dr. Qin, how much of this medicine do you have? Can you cure all the other patients? Qin Haodong said, Director Wang, there's one thing I need to explain to you. My Sanbao blood cleansing pill can cure this virus, but it's only limited to the first stage. It can't do anything to Niu Erwa and Zhang Dezhuang. Although it could not cure everyone 100%, Wang Zhonglin still said excitedly, this is already very valuable. As long as we can cure the people infected with the virus in the first stage, there will be no second stage in the future. Sun Bowie glanced at Zhuo Bufan and said, it's a pity that Zhang Dezhuang died. If the medical sage had treated him earlier, he would not have entered the second stage. Zhuo Bufan's face was livid with sarcasm, but he had nothing to say. In a sense, he did hurt Zhang Dezhuang. Wang Zhonglin said, "Dr. Qin, there's no time to lose. Let's start treating the patients now." "I think so too." You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.